too strong on the volume drop there. I barely moved it. It went all the way to silent, but that's okay. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. We're gonna be playing some more Trails in the Sky, second chapters. Right. No. No, I might have to configure it for OBS again, but that's okay. Let's get this game up. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Now I used to have OBS set, so just capture whatever maximized window there is, but for some reason that stopped working. It has to be a specific window, but that's fine. It's always a technical issue, and I'll never understand why. Give it a second. OBS needs to actually see that it is up. Or maybe it doesn't. Properties. There it is. Aha! Behold. Start game. Nope, that's the wrong one. Load game. Okay, so last time we played this, we finished chapter 2, which took place in the city of Zeiss here. And I'll kind of give a recap as we go over our stuff. Well, we shouldn't really need to go over our stuff, but I need to remember what I'm doing. So, the good news is, this is a New Game Plus run. So that means I have endgame weapons, endgame stats, endgame quartz, I have endgame everything. This is basically a story mode playthrough. Because were I to play this normally, I would probably still be on chapter 2. As many times as I stream this game. This game is, I always thought it was longer than the first game, but it also, there's a lot more chapters. So the chapters are shorter, but they do get longer towards the end, much like the first game. So in the first chapter, we met an enforcer of Ouroboros. If you remember at the end of first chapter, like the actual game first chapter, we investigated the ghost sightings in the city of Buron. It was there that we found enforcer number, oh shit, I can never remember their numbers. I think he's number 10. Enforcer number 10. Blue Block. He's a man in an opera mask, and he has holographic projections as a very advanced piece of technology. And it's amplified by the powers of a gospel black ornament that this Ouroboros group has. The other thing is that after we met him, he escaped, and then we went on to chapter 2. Chapter 2, we were investigating earthquakes in Zeiss, and the earthquakes were another experiment of Ouroboros, brought on by a man named Walter, the direwolf. I don't remember his number, his Ouroboros enforcer number. But Walter and Zin here seem to have history. Them and Kilika. Kilika is also knows of Walter. They all train under the same master. Your Sin's actually equipped. I know I equipped him earlier. Okay, I did equip him earlier. Okay. Tita's a little, shall we say, weak in this game, but it's fine. We're all in game, so it's not going to matter that much. Okay, so I think I just got to go to my controls. I think I just have to go to the airport. Yeah, Capital Branch. Okay, there's no other quests, right? Double check that. Purchasing guest. I guess I'll do some touring for determine since I did. Time would like to investigate many questions. Front desk of the hotel. Got it. Okay, the hotel's the blue building, I think. Back down here. The little... There's always like one more quest. It's like, oh, one more thing. Fuck. Welcome to the Zonrad Hotel. Do you have a reservation? Sorry, that's not why we're here. We came from the guild. Oh, are you bracers? Pardon me, we've been waiting for you. Can you begin the search immediately? Yes. No problem. According to the request, the customer hasn't been back in a while. So in other words, they're missing. Yes, that's exactly the case. He's been gone for 3 days. 3 days, huh? That is worrisome. Lately, the monsters on the roads have been pretty nasty too. I almost wish that was where he had gone. This particular guest, he's gone to the Limestone Cave. Okay, I was wondering why Limestone Cave was walled off. Limestone Cave? The one that's like in the middle of the Chaldea Tunnel? Yes, exactly. The Chaldea Limestone Cave. We tried to stop him, but... yeah, that's pretty bad. That's not the kind of place your average citizen should go. I can't believe this. Why go there without an escort? Who was this crazy guest? He seemed to be a fairly ordinary man. He checked in as Jimmy from Ruan. Jimmy from Ruan? Could it be? Do you know him? Yeah, I've done a job before for someone with that name. I think it was a search for treasure. If you remember the guy on the beach. I wonder if he went to the Limestone Cave to look for something like that again. Anyway, we better hurry to the Limestone Cave. There have been some really strong monsters lately, so this could be bad. Yes, we should hurry. Do you have any other information? I've told you everything I can. Please take care of our guest. We're on it. Let's go. And it's not the front door. This is the front door. And of course, as this is essentially story mode, you can just very easily go save this man. I don't remember what the reward is. Of course, as I said before, I'm doing this for the BP because I do like the dialogue changes that come with it. Oh, I'm not gonna get every single BP in the game, but I should get most of them.
We're good to go.
Anything involving side quests, anyway. The hidden stuff, I'm not even gonna try because that requires a guide as far as I'm concerned. Ah, here we go. Here's a limestone cave. Now I'm pretty sure he's way at the fucking end too, and there's no map in here either. So, what we do? Always left. Nope. Now, of course, in the remake, it's a lot easier to navigate these caves because you're not forced into combat when you bump into an enemy. Luckily, I'm way too high level. Oh, you know what? I should have, shit. I should have grabbed Olivier because I gave him the cloak quartz. Okay. But when we go back, I'll be sure to swap him in. Or at least take his quartz. Oh, reminds me. Now, Tita's pretty weak in this game. Her biggest strength. Oh, we have haze. Okay, that doesn't remove. That doesn't. Oh, she has one more slot. That doesn't remove encounters, but it does make them not walk into us. But I think I might be so high a level they're not gonna walk into us, regardless. That's it. I have a distinct memory of some of them walking into us on purpose. They were chasing us. There we go. That's... is. Okay, I managed to pull the chest up. No doubt about it. I finally found it. Yeah, I finally found it. Finally found it. Found it. Found it. Found it. Shuri, you're amazing. I love you. Amazing. I love you. Love you. Love you. I guess this isn't the time to be goofing around. I better check the contents before some monster shows up. Whoa! Who are you guys? Forget that. What the heck are you doing playing around in a place like this? Are you nuts? Oblivious as always. You haven't changed a bit. Huh? You're... Hey, Jimmy. It's been a while. When did I take that job of yours back in Rouen? Oh, man, that takes me back. So, what brings you here? Your place of lodging issued a search request, so we came looking for you. Oh, you came all the way in from Zeiss, huh? Well, sorry, but I can't go back yet. I'm about to make the discovery of the century. You mean that chest? Yeah, I managed to pull it up just a moment ago. Pull it up? Like from the lake? Yeah, talk about a crazy hiding spot. Still, that's what I expect for the great pirate Shermer's treasure. What? That's the treasure you've been looking for? No doubt about it. I followed a long trail on many old maps to get here. Look, I don't care, just hurry. If we linger, the monsters are sure to notice us. Oh, yeah, right. Alright, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna open the chest. Alright, Jimmy. Show us what's inside. Why are you quiet all of a sudden? Give me a second. What is this? Whoa. Whew, that sure surprised me. This sounds like a damn alarm. Anyone else hear that? Oh man, this is so a trap, isn't it? I don't know, but I have a bad feeling. Here they come. Looks like your bad feeling is right on the mark. Here they come. The penguins. There are tons of them. Jimmy, behind you. Huh? Oh, there's the big one. Over here too. Another evil penguin. Surprise, surprise. Ah! I guess that's the new lord of this little domain. Watch out, it's coming for us. And begin. They would get a surprise attack off, but it's a story mode. Alright, baby penguins. Put you down. Divine penguin. Now, the, oh, I should have, oh, do I not have? I'm probably gonna switch to Alleviate, not just for the cloak, but for, the map-wide spells. Make a lot of this go faster. Oh, poor, so it doesn't have any limit break gauge. Oh well. Just wipe these out real fast. Catfish. I go, Jimmy's just running in flames. There we go. That's the other thing. If Jimmy dies, I lose regardless. Okay, so she still has decent spells. Run, Jimmy. You stay the hell away from him now. Fucking catfish. Alright, finish him off. There we go. Divine Penguin is slain. Well, that was certainly a thing. It sure was a flashy bird. I thought I was a goner, said Gruner. Oh, you managed to push him back. That's a treat before more come. Right. Okay then, I'll be quick. No, wait a moment. Why don't you leave that to us? There could be another trap. Yeah, good point. Oh then, here we go. Something seems off, really. I think we're okay, but... Use Silver Dew Orb. Alright, the dubious pirate treasure has been secured. Wait, huh? What's wrong? There's a scrap of paper in here. It looks like a letter. Let's see. In memory of my 70th birthday and my retirement from piracy. Here lies my Silver Dew Orb. This gem holds the power to ward its bearer of all approaching danger. I could say my living to this day is thanks to none other than this jewel. However, I have grown old and weary of being bothered by the knights who come seeking it. I'm grown old and weary of being bothered by the knights who come seeking it. And so I sink it into this lake. You who have found it, do as you please. However, as I wrote, this treasure comes with its own troubles. Shermer. The end. Start shaking her. Holy crap! Let me see it, please! Okay, calm down. Zeiss first, and I'll let you have it. But if you'd rather fight that strange monster again, we can stay a bit longer. Pass. Going is good. Yes, very good. Let's go then. Yeah, let's. Start shaking the shit out of her stall. That was a very near thing. If you'd opened the chest first, you'd likely be monster food now. Monster food? I totally regret it, so please don't scare me like that. We're not trying to scare you, but you really were saved by a coincidence this time. Understand that, make sure you learned something from all this. Got it. Anyway, I'm gonna focus on getting a job for now so I can pay for an escort next time. So that's how it's gonna be. You may regret it, but you're still going into danger, huh? Well, yeah, I gotta. Treasure hunting's a man's romance. For discoveries like this, a little danger is unavoidable. Speaking of, what happened to the discovery this time? It seems it really was pirate treasure in the end. Ah, right. Wait, why are you even here? Weren't you enjoying a refined moment on the second floor? Well, I happen to hear the cheerful sound of your sweet voices below. How could a social butterfly such as myself resist that siren call? Now, please continue. Pretend I'm not here at all. If only. Anyway, putting that aside, first I need to give you back your treasure. Hand it over, Silver Dew. Thank you. It's like a dream come true to really find treasure. Still, I wonder what it really is. Whatever it is, it sounds pretty incredible, judging by the letter that was left with it. That's true, but I've never seen anything like this before. Most likely an artifact. It's lost its power from the look of it, though. What? An artifact? Artifacts are relics from a long time ago, right? Even if it doesn't have any power, isn't it still pretty dangerous? Possibly. You should have it examined by the proper authorities. It's a bit of a problem to have citizens possess those things. The closest research facility would be the History Museum in the capital. If you wish, I could contact them for you. Please do. If it's that dangerous, I'd definitely like to have it looked at. Understood. Well then, I'll prepare everything, including your ticket to the capital. Thanks, what a great service. No, it's a necessary expense. After all, you're completely broke, aren't you? How did you... That's Archilica. But by the way things are outside right now, it's probably best for you to take her up on the offer anyway. Walking the roads is just way too scary at the moment. Yes, I agree. You can get your ticket from the receptionist at the landing port. Well then, take care on your way to the capital. Really, thanks for today. No, thinking about it, it's not just today. I owe you guys a lot from before, too. Here, take this. The Yin Yang Quartz. It's a favorite of mine. I'd like you to have it. Are you sure? This time my thanks for saving my butt so many times. Please accept it. Hope we see each other in the capital. Yeah, got it. Make sure you deliver that jewel to the museum. Leave it to me. Well then, if you will pardon me, Jimmy, good day. Yeah, you too. Oh, he is. Some guests complete. That is the final side quest. Yep, I just had to report it. Reports. Okie doke. Upstairs. Now I want Olivier in my party. We're going to switch out Tita. Sorry, Tita.
All right, your aid, please.
There we go. And Zin sounds way different in the remake. It's like a growl in his voice in the original. Okay, so that is actually it. So we're done with Zeiss. Officially. Now, in the remake, what I would do now is teleport to Elmo Springs, get the limit break gauge back, and then continue on. But there's no fast travel, so put the kibosh on that. Here we go. Welcome. You're the party of bracers bound for Gransel, right? Yeah, that's us. Jilika sent over the fare payment already. You guys ready to check in? Just like last time, it would probably be best if we stay here and wait for the ship once we check in. Are you certain we're done here in Zeiss? Yes. Okay. Alright. I'll contact the guild and let them know to send the rest of your party. The stealth group checked in and wait for the next passenger ship. I don't remember what the ship's name is. They all have names, but I don't remember this one's name. Alright. Cecilia! Airliner Cecilia. And just as usual, we have to wander around and talk to everybody. Tita and Chloe and Seek. Hi, Estelle. Scree. Out for a walk, Estelle? Uh-huh. You two just watching the clouds? Something like that. Chloe helped me become friends with Sieg. Right, Sieg? Scree. That's great, Tita. Oh, and Chloe was telling me all about the school festival. You were a knight in the play, right? Well, kinda, yeah. Actually, a lot of people thought I cut a pretty dashing figure as a knight. Wow, neato. I wish I could have seen you act. Well, you can come to the festival next year, Tita. It's open to the public, after all. Wait, really? Mom and Dad will be back then, by then, too. I'll ask Grandpa about it as soon as I get home. Well, if we do that, we'll have to get Estelle on stage again next year. I think I'll just leave my things. Say, that reminds me. Tita, your mom and dad are out of the country working, right? Yeah. They're helping to establish orbital technology in places that don't have it yet. They've been gone for 2 years. Oh, that is a long time. I hope they write you letters or something at least. Yeah, once every month. I wrote about you last time, Estelle, and in the reply, they said to give you their regards. Aw, that's sweet of them. So what kind of people are your parents, Tita? Is your mom like you? I bet she is. Like me? I don't think so. Mom's got a really, powerful personality, I guess. Me and Grandpa kinda end up fighting and wrestling a lot over stuff. Wrestling? Well, she certainly sounds energetic. Oh, but they usually get along really well. Dad says their fighting is just a way to express their love. Well, okay. So what's your dad like then? He's not like Mom at all. He's sort of quiet and reliable, I guess. He was a bracer until about 10 years ago. Wait, seriously? He told me once that he got hurt doing something and became an engineer afterward. Mom said he was really famous, though. Huh, okay. They sound great. I'd love to meet them when they get back. Yeah, when they do, come over to play and I'll introduce you. Oh, you too. I'd love to. Thank you, Tita. Scree? Oh, you can come too, Seek. Scree. I kind of miss Pee-wee from the remake. Anyway, else is up here. Is the lounger? Oh, of course, Olivier is... He is trying to make Shira swoon. It is a nice tune. I don't think there's singing in this one, though. I think the most they do is they hum. The voice actor hums. And I don't think it's Troy... I think it's just the original voice actor. Ah, Estelle, my fair rose. Welcome to Olivier Lenheim's lovely solo recital. Oh, Adios, he escaped his chair. Seriously, who let you out of your seat? Just as bracers protect the innocent and military men protect their homes, it is the duty of performers such as I to protect the soul and pathos of the moment. He did, apparently, beg permission from the steward, Estelle. There's no harm in letting him play. No lasting harm, anyway. Shira, have you no appreciation for song? You even turned down my invitation to the Elmo Springs a month ago, in the most casual fashion imaginable. And I would drink myself under the table for you. What tragedy. If I actually had time to fool around like that, I'd consider it. Besides, I never actually drink you under the table deliberately. I just want someone who can match my pace. That's all I need from a drinking partner. His face is all. Olivier? Shira doesn't quite get it. He doesn't realize how crazy her drinking speed is, or how her liver is basically the Gehenna of alcohol. I am sitting right here, you know, Estelle. But if you want to serenade me, my dear Lenheim, you'd better be ready to keep up with me. And remember, I won't work your liver nearly as hard as Ina would. Oh, please, let us never speak of that night again. The memories alone make my heart quail. I bet they do. Just what the heck? You know, I don't actually want to know. There he goes. Well done, Olivier. I love these little chibi sprites. Jimmy aesthetic is kind of hit or miss for me, but in this game they do it really well. At least in a way that's quote unquote acceptable, I mean. Okay, where are you? Big Zin? There you are. Big Z. Zin? Ah, Estelle. What is it? Need you for something? Oh, no, not really. It's just, you kind of look like you were lost in thought. Yes. Just remembering the past a bit is all. But that sunglasses wolf guy, right? Yeah. We last met 6 years ago. At first it felt like longer, but it hasn't been that long, you know? I guess not. So that man was your senior at your dojo, right? What kind of martial artist is he anyway? Well, they're so young. Simply put, he's a natural. His reflexes are perfect and his sense for battle is keen. When I knew him, he kept himself in perfect shape. It looks like that's still true today. And on top of all of that, he knows how to utilize his chi exactly. In every sense, he is a cut above the normal man. Yeah, his moves are... I've never seen anything like that. I think he might even be faster and stronger in some ways than that Lawrence guy. That's scary. I think you might be right, yeah. When we were students, I admired that strength of his. Envied it, even. At least I did until 6 years ago, when he killed our mentor and master of the dojo, Ryuga. What? He killed his own... sorry, I'm getting ahead of it. They both agreed to the fight, mine. Master Ryuga had long been aware of the darkness in Walter's heart. He'd grown drunk on his own power and hungered for still more. Master constantly rebuked him for his actions, and reminded him what the proper heart of a martial artist is supposed to be. The living fist of the Taito style, that seeks to perfect oneself through the medium of honorable combat. A living fist, huh? That has a neat ring to it. Ultimately, though, Walter never listened. He relished the power which the most aggressive side of Taito style gave him. The aggressive side? Martial arts are used in combat, and so no one can deny that they can be used to hurt people as much as defend them. And while there are many who train for the latter purpose, there are also those who seek to do the former. Those who do eventually become monsters, whose fists only exist to kill. We call this side of Taito the murderer's fist. The what? In the end, Master Ryuga challenged Walter as he was preparing to leave the dojo to pursue that path. They fought a duel to the death over it. Master lost. I was the observer for that match. I could do nothing but watch. It's in. Well, that's what happened, and I've been looking for Walter off and on ever since. I think we'd meet here now, in Liberal, though. This is the hand of he who dwells... Well, I misread that terribly. She who dwells above at work. Mark my words. Oh, sorry, Estelle. I didn't mean to chew your head off. Or, wait, was it ear? No, you didn't chew anything. Thanks for telling me. What's in? You're searching for Walter to get revenge, right? No. Like I said, their match was fairly fought. Master knew what could happen when he challenged Walter. There's no revenge to take. Oh, yeah, that's right. But then, why are you looking for him? There's something I want to confirm. Something to... Okay, now I really don't get it. It's kind of embarrassing. Either way, I'm still too inexperienced to find out. I hope I can sharpen myself by helping you. I see. Yeah. Well then, I hope you can keep it up, Sin. We'll see, Estelle. You're the one with the shorter legs. Good talk, Sin. Oh, there's Jimmy. Okay, so this should trigger the ping? Yes? No? Maybe? I talked to everybody, didn't I? I'd rather talk to the captain. Alright. No. Outside? Oh, okay, hold on. Here we go, outside. Another conversation? Oh yeah, Estelle. You know why the wind's nice and gentle on a deck like this? Isn't it just like that? Oh no, at the speed we're going, the wind should be really strong. We wouldn't be able to hear each other. We'd get swept off the deck, in fact. Wait, seriously? But if I recall correctly, there's a device aboard an airship that prevents such things. Uh-huh. It's a side effect of the flight field that keeps the ship in the air. A normal flight engine envelops the ship in a field that counteracts gravity, you see. It also has an anti-inertial effect on anything striking the field. That includes the particles that make up the wind. Oh wait, are you following any of this? I think I understand half of it. But generating a flight field takes a lot of power. You need a really high output orbital engine to create the field at all. Okay. So that's why people always say that it's the engine that determines what an airship can do. Speaking of which, the new engine Professor Russell and everyone developed for the RSA is supposed to be incredible, isn't it? Uh-huh. Grandpa showed me the spec sheet for it, and its capabilities are way beyond existing engines. Grandpa and the rest of the team at the Central Factory worked really hard on it. I can imagine. Oh, Julia will be delighted. Okay, I think that is the last conversation. I guess there's two of them. But maybe not. Okay, let's check in on... Oh. Let's check in on these two again. Not him either. Okay, Olivier. Let's check with Zen. Zen has another conversation. Oh yeah, speaking of, the story, not my legs. I think I get what's going on between you and Walter. But how does Kilika fit into all of this? It's not really my place to say. I'll only say this much. Kilika was Master Ryuga's daughter. Oh. I think you could fill in the rest for yourself for now, yeah? She'll probably tell you the full story someday. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, now that is... There we go, ding dong. Thank you for flying with us today. We will be arriving in Gransel shortly. Please be aware that there may be turbulence while landing, so we ask that all passengers take their seats. Of course, of course. No flight without fucking turbulence. Scare the shit out of everybody. Right. Look at the size of Zen's spray compared to everything else. He's fucking enormous. Here we are at the capital again. It was pretty good. Guess we better check in with the guild branch first, huh? Yes, we should speak to Ellen and see what the army has in mind for us. I did notice that a certain white ship isn't in port today. The Arcee, I believe it was. Huh? You're right. That's the royal family's personal cruiser, right? It might be out on a mission or something. If I recall, the Arcee should be at Leyston Fortress at the moment. It's being fitted with the new engine Professor Russell and his colleagues have been working on. Oh yeah, Gustav said he'd be flying out to Leyston on the factory's airship. Oh, I see. So that awesome ship is being made even more awesome. I seriously can't wait to see that. They're just changing the engine, so I doubt the exterior will change much. It'll totally be the world's fastest airship, that's for sure. Eldon. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming. I've read the reports from Ruan and Zeiss. Good work, truly. You've done well in opposing the society thus far. I doubt the guys we fought would agree. Both that masked man and the guy with sunglasses didn't really seem to take it or us seriously. Even knowing that the society is moving is valuable, Estelle. Don't disparage yourself. Your successes should make the Royal Army trust us even further. On that note, why does the Army want to see us? I'm guessing it has something to do with the society. Yes, about that. It seems they don't want to discuss it over the phone. An Army official will be coming by soon to explain the situation in person. Something that cannot be discussed by phone, they say. What they mean is that they do not wish to risk any unwelcome ears listening in on the call. Wait, you can do that? Oh yes, it's quite possible. Telephones are convenient, but with the right equipment, intercepting a conversation signal is not very difficult. We use a scrambling device between branches to prevent interception of guild business. Unfortunately, the scrambling doesn't work with the Army for some reason. Yes, the Army uses a different system. All calls between us are thus completely open. Oh, that's Ducky. Ducky? Why can't the Army just share a mixer scrambler thingamajigger with us? We are working together, but they're still an international citizens group, or we're still an international citizens group, and they're a national defense force. As much as your father trusts us, Estelle, I don't think they can give us something so sensitive so easily. Elnan. From the sound of things, you do have some idea of what this is all about, yes? I doubt you would have called us directly otherwise. Am I being that transparent? I can only hazard a guess, really, but I believe it's very likely this has to do with the signing of the Non-Aggression Pact. The Non-Aggression Pact? I remember hearing something about that. What exactly is going on with that, anyway? It is a treaty affecting Liberal, Erebonia, and Calvard, proposed by Grandmother. In short, it says all countries involved will attempt at all times to solve international disputes without resorting to force. Whoa. So, like, it'll end war? Well, no, there's no true enforcement mechanism beyond simply being known as a treaty breaker, so enforcing it like that would be difficult. It should still be something of a deterrent, though, and it will hopefully promote more friendly relations between ourselves and others. Okay, I get it. And Alicia does it again. She's got a good eye for this kind of thing. It'd be neat if that made the countries nicer to each other. The pact is being signed in a large ceremony at the Irby Royal Villa next weekend. Dignitaries from all 3 nations will be attending. The media is paying close attention. Which is to say, they may as well have painted a sign on the roof of the villa saying, "Ouroboros, please attack us." Oh, yeah, that could get really ugly. This is going to be quite the task, isn't it? So you just want us to wait here for the army official then? Correct. We do have some time before he's scheduled to arrive, so feel free to... Oh, pardon me a moment. Hello, this is the Gratzl Bracer Guild branch. Yes, yes. I see, yes. That certainly is a problem. Just a moment, please. Is that the army on the phone? No, it's a member of the Irby Royal Villa staff. They seem to have lost a child from one of the tourists in their care. Unfortunately, they can't seem to actually locate her parents. That's awful. Do they want us to help? Just so, Your Highness. They've asked for our aid in locating the child's parents or guardians. There's still some time before our guest of the army is due to arrive. Would you mind taking care of this? Sure, we'd be glad to. You're in, right, Sheriff? Of course. Let's get over to the villa. Thank you. Hello? Yes, we have a team of bracers we can dispatch immediately. And your name, sir? Yes, understood. Well then, our bracers will be over as soon as they're able. The lost child is in charge of a butler named Raymond. Once you arrive at the villa, inquire with him. Alright then. Wait a sec, Raymond. Why does that ring a bell? Wasn't he that one butler we found? You know, when we saved Chloe during the coup. He was hiding under a counter. Right, Niall's friend. Back to the old way, see, I didn't know his name was Niall until the remake when they said it out loud. I always thought it was Neil. Niall's friend. Ah, good. If you know him, that should make things even easier. Well then, good luck. These are your party. Okay, so we want... So I'm gonna metagame just a little bit. I think story-wise, Tita should come with us. Olivier... Sussy Olivier aside, he does have the cloak, so... Cloak and some strong arts. Okay, so there's a monster in the sewer, West Block entrance, and the Chronocider on the road. Okay, got it. So I want the western entrance to the sewer. We can knock this out real fast. Maybe it's this way. That's the church. That's the port. A second. Oh, I see. It's down here. Okay. There's a boss down here somewhere. Destroy really fast. With a BP. Because the XP is going to be completely useless to us. Now, I don't know where this is, so... I might have to... Sweep, as they call it. Sweep the floor. Okay. Shit. Always left. This is way easier to navigate when it's a fucking map. There he is. Sure, it's got Ariel. She's a wind mage. And Olivier should have a bunch of it. Doesn't. That's fine, we have White Gehetta. And And Tita's, like I said, she's not super strong. Even so, you can see she's not one-shotting shit. But I think story-wise, she's I'll leave it at that. Jesus, I think we just attack. Oh shit. Spell looks really cool. I think it's better in the remake though, right? In the remake it has like the big skull coming out of the ground. This is a different skull.
Oh, are we done already?
Okay, that's one monster dead. Let's see, boss. I kind of remember the way back. We don't need anything in the chests here. This is the story mode playthrough. No, wrong way. Go all the way. We go all the way around. I guess this way? Yeah. Okay. I'm not doing fishing. God, no. I did not like fishing in this game. The later games it's okay when the mini game's actually fun. This one's like a time thing, and even then it's not very interesting. Plus, I already have the Lake Lord fishing rod. Oh, okay. All that's left is the scenic routes. It's a chronocider. Okay, so we're looking for a rhino. Get that up on the way to... Actually, I'm gonna run over here real fast. I haven't actually... Oh, Anton's here. In the end, everything is as it was. Today, too, I'm pondering. So much pondering. Sure, I'll spend tomorrow pondering as well. No job, no girlfriend. I wonder if my life has a purpose. Poor guy. Look, Anton. That cloud. Looks like Duke Dunan's hairstyle. Don't you worry, Anton. You hang in there, buddy. You'll get through this. Looking for, here we are. Yes. A newspaper. I think I've already missed newspapers, but that's fine. Books. Yeah, I missed 1 and 3. Earthquakes plaguing Zeiss have finally ended, it seems. While Ford incident mentioned in our previous edition is only the beginning, the city of Zeiss, Sanctum Gate, and Lacen Fortress were all hit by quakes as well, causing distress in the region. This is like a recap of Chapter 2. Some declaration of safety. However, not long after the earthquake at Lacen Fortress, the declaration of safety was... if I could turn the page. Issued by the Central Factory's Chief Murdoch. Some concern was expressed in this statement, but as a practical matter, there have been no earthquake since. How such a declaration of safety as possible was explained by Chief Murdoch. We determined that the earthquakes were being caused by special circumstances, he clarified. Yeah, it's fucking Ouroboros agent. These earthquakes, it seems, are being caused by underground septium veins, and then after analysis, it had possible to state accurately when they had ended. The declaration also emphasized disaster, preparedness for future events, however. New model engine finally complete. The new model orbital engine from the Central Factory is at last completed, and has been revealed to the press. This engine was specifically designed for the cruiser Arcee, and has higher output as well as streamlined maintenance for field repairs. The new engine will increase the Arcee's cruising speed to 3,200 sails per hour, over 4 times the speed of an airliner, making it the fastest ship in the world. Foreign affairs, new engines drive peace. Examples of the new model engines referred to in our previous article to be presented both the Empire and Republic as tokens of the peace represented by this pact. These engines are said to be the key to next generation flight and such technological exchanges the promise made to those who have promised to uphold harmony between nations, much is expected from liberals' ace in negotiations. Emerald Springs gets hot. In the earthquake struck Zeiss region, even Elmo Village felt the wrath of nature. Following the quake, their hot springs began boiling. The phenomenon ceased after a few hours, but it's thought to be related to some form of underground abnormality. After investigating, the Bracer Guild issued a statement that was temporary with no likelihood of reoccurrence. A possible connection to the quakes will be investigated by the Central Factory at a later date. Of course, this is all caused by Walter, the Direwolf. Ouroboros is It's like he's basically a monk, I guess. He's a monk, but he's like dripped out in a fucking suit. Okay, so all we need is find this boss. Gate. Now, this is a little weird to navigate without the big map from the remake, but I think it's just a big circle. That's the actual gate that way, which I don't want to go to. There is a boss somewhere. I just don't remember quite where. Scenic routes. Okay, he's here somewhere. Is he over this way? What's this stone monument? Well, the pond is over here. I don't think he's at the pond though. This is where we launched the attack on the Royal Villa in the first game. What's the finale? Hills. Super interested. Boss is a Rhinocider, or Chronocider, so he's a big ass rhino. Sorry. So he's at the Earth Monument. The Earth Monument. Okay, he's not at the Earth Monument. There he is. You bastard. Yeah, I've never seen Tita's satellite beam. This look like.
I gotta give it my all!
Oh god, it's Barrett's limit break, right? He had a satellite one as well. Oh, committing war crimes. Damn. And there they go.
Scary.
Scary. Very good. Okay, so I don't have to hand it in right away because it's a long-term quest. I have the next story beat that I should hand it in. Okay, so here's the villa. That's where we're supposed to go. Wow, it's so pretty. The Royal Villa. This is sort of nostalgic in a that was an awesome adventure kind of way. He's a bit more lively this time though. As I recall, the villa is typically open to the public. It's something of a tourist spot, in part because it's so relaxing. Such a refined setting, it speaks to my muse. Perhaps I should wield my loot in the service of further rest and healing for everyone here. Yeah, you'll send them into comas maybe. I see the point about a vacation spot though. There's a lot of families here. I would imagine our lost child was with a family like that. Let's find Raven and see what happened. Okay. I probably should have bought Chloe. That's fine. Oh dear. Oh dear. The braces will be here any minute. Where could she have gone? Hello? Ah, yes. May I ask what you... Wait, you're... Hello. I guess you remember us. How could I forget? We all owe you greatly for what you did at the villa. So I take it you're the team Eldon said would be coming. Yeah, that's right. Is everything okay though? You seem kind of troubled. It's about that lost child, actually. She's, how do you put this? Lost again. She told me, let's play hide and seek, and just vanished. I've been looking for her ever since. Oh, crap. I'll find her soon, I swear. Please, wait in the lounge. You know where that is, right? Well, yeah, I do, but look like you're having some trouble. You sure you don't want a hand? Are you sure? I wouldn't want to impose. It's a bit late for us to back out now, anyway. If you could give us her name and description, we'll look for the girl. Thank you. She's a preteen girl wearing a white fully dressed and black hair ribbon. You never gave her a name, though. You didn't find out her name? Seriously? She wouldn't tell me. Every time I asked, she just said it's a secret. I think she came with her family, but I couldn't find her parents or anyone who knew her. My only option was to call you in the end. I see. I didn't seek, huh? Energetic little girl you got there. Not sure I'd say energetic. Precocious and whimsical is more like it. I got the distinct impression she was enjoying toying with the adults around her. Oh ho, prank-loving kid. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have brought Olivia. Yes, exactly. Where could she have gone out to? I'm fairly sure she hasn't left the building, but... In other words, we must search the entire building, including the courtyard. A perfect place for a game of kitten and mouse. I will wait in the lounge then. When you find her, please bring her there. Will do. Okay, let's hunt us down a kitten, the child. It's a white dress, black hair ribbon. That shouldn't be too hard to find. I can't wait to meet her. Let's start to look around, shall we? Okay, I have no idea where she is. I actually don't remember. So we'll just sweep everything. You're looking for a girl in a white dress. I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be of any help. I guess the NPCs can kind of help you out and give you hints. Have I seen a girl in a white dress? Well, yes and no. After all, despite how marvelous I look, I've lived over 70 years. I'm sure I've seen at least one girl in a white dress, but I couldn't say when or where. Okay, Grandpa, thanks for nothing. Bird. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Bird's name is Eggs. Chirp, 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 chirp. Ham. The ham and eggs. I think there's a puzzle with these birds. There's like a secret objective if you talk to these birds at a certain... I don't know if it's here, that might be somewhere else. Girl in a white dress. I've seen a number of girls, but I don't remember how they all looked. I'm really sorry. Would you mind asking someone else? This guy. A girl in a white dress. I'm pretty sure I didn't see her. What about the kids? You can tell if you really listen. They're going cuckoo just like pigeons should. Okay. It sounds like poo-poo to me. I'll try giving him some food, so listen close this time. I actually have no idea what this... I don't know what the puzzle is. I don't remember. It's one of those hidden things that you would never figure out without some massive amounts of trial and error. Or, what I did initially, died. Search for this chick, this little girl. Sweep. Oh, no. I found him. He's late. Too late, I say. Curse you, Philip. How much time does it take just to purchase a magazine and some donuts? How long does he intend to keep me? Hey. You. Oh, didn't I see this noble in the castle during the coup? Well, this is where you've been, Duke Dunan. What's going on? Have you no shame, you brigand? Because of you. All because of you. I have been forced into this life of shame. House arrest of all things. Okay, I don't think it's really fair to say it's our fault. You're the one who bought into Colonel Richard's plan, you know. You should be grateful you live in a kingdom as forgiving and merciful as liberal. With this Erebonia, your nobility would only serve to speed you to the gallows. Ugh. I confess that imprisoning Her Majesty was out of line, perhaps. Richard may have suggested it, but I should have gainsaid him. You can actually admit you were wrong about that whole deal? That's pretty humble coming from you. Do not misunderstand me. I love and respect Her Majesty. As both a ruler and an aunt, she is utterly above reproach. But to consider naming a little girl like Claudia as her successor is simply madness. Unacceptable insanity. Now, just a second. Chloe's smart, studious, kind, merciful. She's got all kinds of virtues that attract people to her. Where do you get off in calling her a little girl, huh? That's not my... I should have brought her. I should have brought Chloe. Oh well. It may well be that she is possessed of incredible potential, yes. But does she really possess the mindset required to become the next queen? Well, Claudia has always seemed allergic to attending public ceremonies. I am far better known among the citizenry, while she remains a veritable ghost. She has not once publicly demonstrated she is ready to stand above others. Still, from what I understand, she's hiding her true identity while living as a student. And as if that weren't enough, she wastes her time at some backwater orphanage? She should be presiding over the common rabble at ceremonies, not wallowing in the mud with them. That is the purpose of nobility, to stand above all other men in lordship. I'll admit, I don't really know much about the purpose of nobility, so You might have a point. Of course I do. But I can say this. Chloe is trying her very hardest to figure out what she wants to be, and it's helping us out in the middle of her own problems. And she sure as hell is doing a lot more than some dude who sits around doing nothing because he's under house arrest. What? You dare? You can judge whether Chloe can be a queen once she's found her answer. Heck, I bet even you'll accept her then. Duh. This is absurd. I will deal with this no further. Be gone. Trust me, I don't want to stick around. Though come to think of it, I need to. I gotta ask one thing. Has the girl in the white dress come by here? What are you talking? No, no little girls have gone by. Be gone. Yeah, sure. Enjoy your donuts or whatever. Stupid Duke Doonan. I should have brought Chloe. I think Chloe lays into him. She starts mouthing off about her. Urgh. I'm fighting the urge to strangle that guy. He's all acting like he's the most innocent person in the world while insulting Chloe at the same time. There's no need to get so worked up, Estelle. As much as I hate to admit it, Duke Doonan was approaching something like a point, I think. People who must stand above others, people who lead, can't afford to show hesitation. They can never let their doubts show and must always display an air of confidence in the eyes of their people. But Chloe is... I know, honey. Chloe knows what she needs to do, regardless of what that man may say. We just need to give her time to find her own answer. Yeah, maybe you're right. Okay, let's get back to finding our lost girl. After you. Alright. Okay. No, another Walter. Here? Oh, there's Raymond. I have no idea what this girl is. Here. Drawing room, under the tiny table? Maybe she's hiding under here. Yeah, I didn't think so. Putting that aside, bending over in your current outfit may not be wisest. Okay, Olivier. Huh? How to put this delicately? Your unmentionables are now quite mentionable. Excuse me? He's right, Estelle. You're wearing a skirt, remember? Right. You should have had the stick for that one. What's wrong with you, Olivier? Where is she in? Hold on, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna throw them. There's a lovely podium here. Still peeked under it, but there's no one hiding there. Salamandius! Salamandius. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're sure this was it. Looks like we have a clever little kitten on our hands. Okay, nobody here. How are you doing tonight, Salamandius? Sorry, Miss Last Stream, don't beat my ass. Alright, Salamandius. You know the drill. Bend up. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's no problem. We finished chapter 2 last time. We just started chapter 3. So chapter 2 was in Zeiss. That's the technology city. I'll give you a little rundown. So, much like in chapter 1 when we fought the Phantom, the opera guy, with his holographic projections. Last chapter we were investigating earthquakes in Zeiss, but they were like localized earthquakes. As he found out, it's another agent of Ouroboros, a man in a black suit. I don't think I can actually... I don't know if there's, like, pictures in this game. It might be just the other game. Yeah, a man in a black suit. And sunglasses was his name's Walter. Walter the Dire Wolf. And he had a machine that caused earthquakes near the town with the hot springs. There's another experiment from Ouroboros, so he claimed. And the man in the black suit was originally the friend of Big Zin, our party monk. And after he fucked off, Walter fucked off, we have come to Grand Soul, the capital, and we are currently looking for a little girl. She is playing hide and seek. We're trying to find her now. I don't know what you play yesterday, passed almost immediately from too much drink. God damn it, it sounds like a good night. No, I was playing some scary games. I was wanting to take just a little break and try to play a scary game because I love horror, of course. So it was just some low budget indie horror games that I went through. Is all. It wasn't much to miss. Okay, this guy doesn't know. She's in here. Oh. Which, speaking of, I had to go. I've been like skimping on making clips. I had to go through that video and find the scares. So I screamed like a little B word. The B word is bitch, by the way. She's down here. Down here. She's not in here, unless this guy knows. A girl? No, I haven't seen her. Okay, on here. Okay, that's the final room, so she might be in the courtyard itself. No one near the bench. She's not behind the bench or the planter. Maybe she's in the planter. It would be as small as a cat and fit in there and still. I guess not. Not a planter. No one near the bench. 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 Don't you know it? There's no one near the bench. Again, no one near the bench. No. No one near the bench. 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 There's no way near these benches. Okay, these people know. No. This one? No. A girl wearing a white dress. Now that you mention it, I think I saw someone like that playing around here. Do you know where she went? I'm sorry, I don't quite remember. Darn it. Okay, so around this area. No. Oh shit, did I miss something? I don't remember where this girl is. I've gone through this game before. Check with Raymond. You might know. If she's in one of these things. Is there someone near the bench though? Well, I checked 10 benches that there was no one near the bench. Each bench told me there was no one near the bench. You managed to find her? Nope, couldn't find a single hair. I swear, we've covered every hiding place too. That's unfortunate. You don't think she left the villa, do you? Ugh, that wouldn't be very fun. If she's really playing hide and seek, I don't think she would though. You're supposed to hide in a place you can get to by walking not too far from the start point. I kinda suspect she's just in some place you haven't thought to check yet. True, you always were good at that sort of thing when you were younger. Shall we search a bit longer? Ollie Ollie oxen free. What the hell does that mean? Exactly what I want to do. I think it's time we gave up. But if we give up, how will we find her? In hide and seek, when the it person gives up, they went around saying Ollie Ollie oxen free to show they gave up and to let the other. This is news to me. I don't remember doing that shit. Give up and let the other players know they can come out. If we do that, the girl should come out of hiding, hopefully. Oh, I see. I checked out the first episode of Dandadan. That show get different and better because I didn't dig that first episode. I couldn't get into it either, if I'm being completely honest. Running around and yelling sounds kind of embarrassing. But okay, I don't mind if we have to. Alright guys, let's belt it. Repeat after me. Ollie Ollie oxen free. Ollie Ollie oxen free. So I tried watching it. I don't remember who I tried to watch it. I was trying to watch it with one of my buddies. He was wanting to watch anime, but couldn't get into it. Then he put on Totoro Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. Now that's a funny ass anime. I like that one a lot. Hey. Jeez. Yay, I win. What the? You're that girl we met at Air London. Hello, miss. So, as a small reminder, we did meet this girl before. We met her at the waterfall between Ruan and Zeiss. With their parents. She's walking around with her parents then. I'm happy you remembered me. Goodness, I wasn't expecting her to be an acquaintance of yours. But your name is Ren, right? That's right. Sorry for keeping it a secret, mister. Don't worry. But Ren, why did you run off to play hide and seek like that? I was worried. Because I'd heard Mrs. Stell was coming. I wanted to play hide and seek with her, so I worked really hard to find a nice hiding spot. Well, okay. It's kind of incredible you knew it was us coming, though. You said you're bracers, right? I heard some braces would be coming. We are, yeah, but we're not the only braces in the world, you know. It could have been someone else. But I believed. I knew you'd be the ones who'd come. And see? You did. I guess I can't argue against that logic. Well, putting that aside, where did your mother and father go? Why were you playing all alone? Wow, miss, your clothes are funny. Don't you get cold with your belly out like that? You get used to it. It's very comfort. That's not the point. About your parents. And your skin is so dark. You're from the south across the sea, right? Are you really okay with how cold it gets here? I traveled all over as a performer with the circus, so yes. I'm fine in heat or cold. Or, to the point, would you mind telling us what happened to your parents, Ren? Okay. So where did Papa and Mama go? Not so sure either. Wait, you don't know? Not at all. I came here with Papa and Mama to play. But after lunch, Papa gave me a real serious look and said, Ren, Papa has something important to do, so he and Mama had to say goodbye for now. But don't worry, once it's done, we'll come and get you. Be a good girl until Papa comes back, alright? They just... what the hell? I'm already 11, so I said, I'll be good, Papa. And after that, Papa and Mama left. Well, this is quite a bit worse than I imagined it would be. I certainly wasn't expecting something like that. What should we do? It seems to be quite a bit beyond just finding her parents at this point. Yeah, tell me about it. Sure, you think we should? You don't even need to ask. I'd never leave her here like this. Don't worry, Raymond. We'll take care of this girl for now. Hey, Ren? Do you want to visit the Capital's Bracer Guild with us? I bet we'll be able to find your Papa and Mama easy peasy. Really? But Papa and Mama said they had something important to do and had to wait here. It's okay. We'll definitely find them. Trust in Mrs. Stell, okay? Okay then. I'll go with you. Thank you, Mrs. Stell. It's okay. Stick close by though, Ren. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Phew. Thank you again. Take good care of her. Don't worry. You can leave this to us. So let's get back to the guild house. Now we have Ren. Let's get the fuck out of here. And luckily Olivier's here, so we have Cloak, which disables encounters, so we can just run back. Speed. Story mode. Speed. Sorry. Already took care of the road boss, so I can hand that in as well once we get back. Went the wrong way. Ah, yes, you are. Oh, hey, it's Philip. Mrs. Stell, it has been some time since we last met. Have you been to the villa recently? We have, actually. I guess you had to go to Gransel for some reason. Yes, I was making some purchases on the orders of His Highness the Duke. Did you perchance encounter His Highness while you were at the villa? You encountered him, all right. From your expression, I take it he had said something thoughtless to you once again. As his retainer, you have my utmost apologies. No, he wasn't really rude to me specifically. You don't need to apologize. I wasn't bothered one bit, I swear, she said after she mentioned she wanted to strangle him. Your kindness does you credit, Mrs. Stell. Now I fear I must be off, if you'll pardon me. There it goes. Oh, that's a magazine in hand. Guess Philip's job is even harder now. I'm taking care of Doonan since Doonan was young, right? Huh. You really shouldn't underestimate him. Even I can tell he's not just any old guy. Huh? What do you mean, Red? Oh, you know, like how he can walk with his eyes closed. I sure couldn't do that. think they're just narrowed, right? Not closed. I mean, you noticed how he opens his eyes when surprised, right? Really? I didn't. I want to see. Maybe I can get a good look if I surprise him next time. I'll sit Ren. So I noticed the gate. We're gonna go this way. Even if you do run back to go talk to him and do it, he does bring him the donuts. I guess this way. Okay, let's get back to the guild. We need to talk to Elnan about Ren. That's very important, yes, but the armor should be sending their contacts soon. You didn't forget, of course. Oh, Estelle... Huh? What's wrong? You said you're gonna show me to this guild place, right? Well, milady, please lend me your hand. I, Olivier Lenheim, shall have the honor of escorting you. No, thank you. I'd rather Mrs. Stells to show me. My disappointments are ceaseless. Sorry, Olivier, no luck. Come on, Ren, I'll show you the Bracer Guild. Yay. Poor Olivier. And by that, I mean you keep your filthy hands to yourself, you stupid bard. Okay, it's right here. We're back, Elnan. Oh. Estelle, welcome back. Hello again, Miss Bright. We seem to be running into each other quite a bit these days. Well, hey there, Colonel Sid. Ah, so Cassius sent you to help us. That makes sense. You came from Leysen, I'm guessing. That's right. I just arrived here a little while ago on one of our patrol ships. I apologize for the wait. No, it's okay. We actually had a little job of our own to take care of. Speaking of which, would that young lady be... Oh, right. Yeah, she is. Some stuff went down, so we had to bring her along. Hey, Ren? We've got some things we need to talk about with the army man. Can you go wait on the second floor? Oh, is this work stuff? Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I guess I don't mind. You're just like Papa. It's always work, work, work. I don't really like that very much. Aw. Red? I can play with you for a little while if you want. I want to get to know you. With you? Well, okay, I guess we could. Okay. We'll be on the second floor still. I think Tita is the same age as Ren. I think Tita's also 11 or 12, somewhere around there. I think. No, if she's not 11, she's 13. I can't remember. Saved by the Tita. Oh, your report on the situation can wait for now. Let's hear out Colonel Sid first. Yes, so they mentioned earlier that the Queen, the Queen of Liberal is going to have a non-aggression pact signed by Erebonia and Calvard. Keep that Master Olivier away from her. You know what? See, I had Olivier in the party because he had the cloak, which gets rid of the encounters. Maybe right. I should have brought Chloe, actually. He's a good enough mage as well. Go ahead, Colonel. Thank you. I'm in a hurry myself. So this is an official request from the Royal Army. There's a series of incidents we'd like you to investigate. Incidents? Why does the way you say that make me shiver a bit? You're aware of the non-aggression pact, yes? I'm afraid threatening letters have been delivered to all parties involved in the signing. Someone's threatening the treaty? That's not good at all. What did the letters say exactly? Please, have a look. To all parties involved in a non-aggression pact, immediately back down from this act of deceit and false compromise. Should you not, a great disaster will be visited upon you. What in the... Well, that isn't very open to interpretation, is it? Is this the entire letter? Yes, that's the entire thing. As you may have noticed, there is no name or any other indication of a sender. Normally, I'd simply dismiss it as a prank. However, something about the situation makes you believe it's more than a bad joke, yes? Yes, it's the volume of letters sent, you see. The first arrived at Leysen Fortress. Copies were then sent to the Airship Company, Gransel Cathedral, Hotel Roenbaum, and the Liberal News Service. Then, copies arrived at both the Erebonian and Calvard embassies, the Irby Royal Villa, and even Gransel Castle itself. 9 letters in total. Who'd send that many letters? Man, that'd be a lot of work for a prank in poor taste. I can see why the army would start to get concerned. It's strange, though. The the airship company, Liberal News, and even the hotel and cathedral. None of these locations have anything to do with the signing, do they? They're not totally unrelated, to be honest. The airship company shall be sending out charter vessels to ferry the Imperial and Republican officials here. They will, of course, be staying at the Rowanbaum. Furthermore, the church, or specifically, Archbishop Courant of the cathedral, has been asked to be an observer at the signing. And the Liberal News has been preparing a special report on the pact and signing for weeks. So they are all connected somehow. So do we have any idea who's behind it? That could be a difficult question to answer. This is an international matter, meaning anyone from Liberal, Erebonia, or Calvar could be responsible. Yes, the Warhawks in either the Empire or the Republic for starters. Could even be someone from another country entirely who isn't happy to see all three countries working together. Of course, there are plenty of suspects in Liberal as well. We can't forget the obvious answer, the Society. So what will we be investigating, Colonel? Right then, the mission. We would like for you to investigate all the locations that received the letters and see if anyone has any further leads. Minus Layson and Erby, that is. We'll handle those, and the other 7 locations are yours. So the airship company, Gransel Cathedral, Hotel Rowanbaum, the Liberal News, the Erebonian Embassy, the Calvardian Embassy, and Gransel Castle. That would involve a bit of walking. I think we got turbo mode. More to the point, uniformed soldiers asking around would attract a great deal of unwanted attention. Now that you lack an intelligence division, it makes sense to ask the guild to help investigate such matters. As embarrassing as the situation is, you're exactly right. Without a functional intelligence division, we're very limited in what we can do. However, the new general plan from the top brass is to have the guild help us with as many tasks as possible. This is simply one case of that. Oh, really? Thanks a heap, Dad. Now, take it as a sign of Cassius's faith in us. I must admit, it was my request to ask for you, however. I've been placed in charge of the defense of the capital region until the signing ceremony. I would like as much information as I can possibly obtain in order to prepare a proper defense. Can I ask you to take this job? Oh well, I do want to help. We're really kind of hip deep in another case at this point. That girl, right. Let us hear your report on that situation now. Estelle explained the situation with Ren being abandoned at the Irby Royal Villa. I see. Yes, an abandoned child is a problem you cannot simply ignore. Why would anyone do such a thing? It's kind of freaking me out too. I actually met her parents once, briefly. They seem like this really thoughtful, loving couple. They adore Ren from what I saw. I had to think something really, really serious happened to them to make them leave her. Possibly. They may have gotten entangled in something and wanted to keep their child out of it. I do see an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, however. Huh? Ren and her parents are foreigners, remember? We'll need to inquire at the hotel and the embassies regardless. Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this. And all those places were threatened. That is rather handy, in an unfortunate way. The airship company may have travel records for them as well. I'll put out a general alert to all army posts to watch for her parents as well. Should they pass through any of the gate checkpoints, we should know. Thanks, Colonel. Sounds like you can take the job after all. Colonel, you may leave the investigation itself to us. I presume you'll want the final report in paper and in person, however. Yes, we prefer to avoid telephones to avoid any risk of interception. You'll be able to find me at the Irby Royal Villa beginning today, actually. Sorry for the extra trouble, but could I ask that you bring the final report there in person? Sure. We'll see you at the villa once we know what's up. I wish you luck then. After seeing Colonel sit out, Estelle's team decided to split up to investigate. Estelle, Zin, Olivia, and Chloe would head to the embassies, Gransel Castle, and Liberal News, while Sherazard would investigate the cathedral, hotel, and airship company on her own. Okay, we'll be heading out. Tita, Ren, sorry to leave you 2 behind. Oh, it's okay. We're going out shopping. What? Sorry, Estelle. Ren really wants to visit the department store. Why, that's not how I remember things, Tita. As I recall, you were the one who said she wanted to look at all the stuffed animals. Oh, Ren. Well, I know you're bored, Ren, but since I'm not sure when we'll find out something about your parents, I'd like for you to wait here. Ah, yes, the pixelation. Here we go. Oh, come on, that's so not fair. Double doe-eye stares. I don't really see a problem, Estelle. If Tita's with her, it should be safe enough to let them go out shopping and around the city. I guess so. Okay, Tita, Ren, we'll be back by this evening, so you need to be back by then too, okay? And the capital is a really big place, so don't get lost. Get old. I'm getting old. Decrepit. I'm outdated. We won't. Ren, let's go. After you. See you, everyone. And there they go. Away from Olivier! But out of harm's way. They sure became fast friends. Yeah, it's really easy to become friends at that age. Man, youth, I feel all old now, and then she gets pixelated. Wait, she's already pixelated. Although, Tita and Ren together. Why does that combination send a chill of doom down my spine? Oh? I think they'll be fine. Tita's kind of easy to push around, though. I get the feeling Ren might try to drag her into all kinds of stuff. Chop now, Unk! I'll get to my Unk stream, my Unk games. Unk status is completely and utterly solidified. Might be a good point. Ah, yes, Eldon. Did you find out the name of Ren's parents? It took a little insistent. Also, I wouldn't even deign to read that forbidden number. 67. Took a little insistent asking, but she eventually gave them. Her father is a trader from Crossbell. Harold and Sophia Hayworth are their names. Trader from Crossbell. Harold and Sophia Hayworth. Okay, got it written down. As do I. So, let's start asking around about them in these letters. So remember, Estelle's group will visit the embassies, Ransel Castle, and Liberal News. Sid and Olivier will be counting your aid at the embassies. Fear not, my brilliant smile can open any door. We'll make sure to see the ambassadors. Your Highness, your help would be invaluable at Ransel Castle. Please introduce Estelle to whoever can best to help our investigation. Of course. As for the Liberal News, I believe you have yourself an in for that, Estelle. Yeah, I can bug Niall about it. He kinda owes me at this point. And that leaves the Cathedral, the Airship Company, and the Rowan Bomb. Charizard, good luck with those. I shouldn't have too much trouble. I'll try to be quick. So let's go. Time to get questioning then. Where should we start? I don't think it matters too much. If you want to go to the Calvardian embassy, you got a free pass with me around. I can introduce you to Elsa whenever. I, of course, can get us into the Erebonian embassy. They should be glad to escort us if I introduce myself at the gate. And of course, I rather doubt it'll be very hard for me to get us into Gransel Castle. It might be wise to simply go straight there and speak with Grandmother. I kinda doubt the Liberal News will give us any trouble either, so yeah, let's just pick a direction and go. In a minute. Because I do want the BP. Okay, so that's done. Missing exhibit. Oh boy. Okay. Report. Nobody? I do want the BP. Doesn't change the story significantly, but it's worth seeing because these side stuff does switch up some certain parts of certain dialogues get changed. I don't know where the museum is, so that was it. That's the hotel. Now, unfortunately, these buildings are not marked. I could have swore it was over here. Okay, hold on. Those are the embassies. It's the arena. That's just the store. Okay. No. No, that's arms. Okay. Marble factory. Okay. Is it here? No, that's a house. Did I miss a building? No, there's a museum on the east side. No, there is. Because this is near where Joshua had his thing with Weissman. Faceless. I must really be old because I'm having trouble remembering. Ah, here it is. My mind is not what it was. Okay, so someone here I need to talk to. Is it up here? This guy? Yes. Hello there. How can I help you? Better yet, how can we help you? We're with the Bracer Guild, sir. Oh, excellent. I was hoping someone would come soon. Let's waste no time getting down to business. Yes. So what was stolen? About that. Do you notice anything off here? Off? This is the airship gallery, right? Hey, now that you mention it, something seems to be missing. You're right, Estelle. There's a portrait of the Arcee on this wall, as I recall. Now that you mention it, Chloe, I do remember seeing something like that being here. How could I forget? I saw the portrait myself when touring the capital. Guess we know why you called us now. The portrait of the Arcee was stolen, wasn't it? Precisely that. It was there this morning, but around noon or so, I noticed that it was gone. His card was on the wall in its place. It wasn't O beauteous princess and her loyal companions, the image of the proud white falcon has fallen into my hands. Did you seek it and answer my challenge? The first key is in the residence of the aged general. Search the onlooker of time. Him again. Our rivalry burns brighter still. Yeah, sounds like the Phantom Thief Blue Block, alright. You guys told me about him. I thought you were exaggerating. You already know who the criminal is? Now that's what I call reassuring. I have every confidence that you'll crack this case. We won't let you down. We'll be right back right before you know it. Okay. Now again. The aged general. Aged general. Fuck. I want to say Zach, it's his house over here. The onlooker of time. If it's not, it's the clock. Oh, actually, I think it is the clock. Hold on. That is a hotel. This way. It's a little hard to see when it's isometric camera. Clock's right here. Right here. No, I guess it's not. Okay. That means it'll be in the residential district. I hope. And here. General Morgan's residence. There we go. Okay. So, someone here. Onlooker of time. No. Maybe the second floor. The picture? Oh, it's the clock. Okay. So the aged general is probably General Morgan. In that case, is this the onlooker of time? I'd say it's likely. We'll need to check inside. Estelle asked to receive permission from the owners of the house to investigate the clock. Upon inspection, they found a card stuck to the back. The second key is in the city. Seek the symbol perched on the ground. As we thought. I think something like that was in this house. Well, this guy isn't the type to harm people who aren't involved in his weird plans, so don't worry. Best to close up tight at night just in case there's any more mischief, though. Yes, of course. Yes, so be careful. Alright, shall we continue? Symbol on the ground. That might be the church next door. I don't recall. No, it's not. Okay. If it's not here... I'd be back in this district. I'm stuck in a fence. Here? Yes. Perched on the ground, the bird. Symbol perched on the ground, huh? This white falcon symbol seems suspect to me. This bird is a symbol of liberal, so it would stand out. Let's have a look. There's a card stuck to the base of the iron fence. The third key is in the foreign manse. Examine the will of the Blue Knight. Alright, we got it. But what does the Blue Knight mean? Is he talking about the Royal Guard? They certainly do wear blue uniforms. I think not. It says the foreign manse, so I don't think the Royal Guard makes sense. More than anything else wouldn't be beautiful, so we should try something else. Is that right? Well, it is coming from someone similar, so I guess maybe I should listen to the warning here. So that's the clue. I'm pretty sure it's in the embassy. One of the airboating one specifically. Which is this one? It's Calvard. We're going to airboating one, because we can also hit the story note there too. Hello, Bergen. You've been well, I hope. Olivier! Where the hell have you been? Why, I've been places. What's wrong? What's wrong, he says. You've been totally incommunicado ever since you went to Elmo. Major Vander's about ready to throw you out a window. Ah, he wishes to launch me like a love rocket. Adorable. Olivier, did you seriously forget to tell Mueller in the embassy you were with us? When wandering the roads hunting for love, one must be discreet and secretive. Oh, Bergen, may we enter? I can't say no to you, but who's with you? We're from the Bracer Guild. We'd like to ask the ambassador a few things if that's okay. We thought we'd try having Olivier introduce us. Oh, okay. Well, I can certainly let you in, but Lord Ambassador Cranegg, I think it's Cranegg. Cranegg and Major Vander are out at the moment, you see. Oh, a pity. What shall we do, Estelle? We could wait inside. We could, but Kind of burning daylight here, so I'd like to visit some of the other places while we wait. We could visit the Calvardian embassy first then. It's just across the plaza from here. Yeah, getting back here won't take long after meeting with Elsa. That's decided then. We'll be back later, sir. I'll let the Major know you were here. See you later. Okay, so we can't go in just quite yet. Something. Ornaments. I'm pretty sure it's in a bookshelf on the Erebonian, but I'll check in here though. How it goes? It's in! Holy crap! Wasted time in Liberalville again? Something like that. Thought I'd say hello to Elsa, and I have something else I need to talk to her about. Is she in? Well, I haven't seen her leave, so I guess she's around. Who's with you? Gotta ask, you know, policy. Oh, they're helping with some guild work. I'm gonna introduce them to Elsa. Well, okay. If they're with you, Zin, I guess I can let him in. Oh. Welcome to the Calvardian Embassy. Oh, do keep in mind that the embassy hall is Calvard soil. Calvard and Liberal are friends, but still, keep your nose clean, eh? You hear that, Olivier? And again, my heart is assaulted with arrows. How little trust you have in me. It's because you are a strange man, Olivier, who needs to be kept inside a jail cell. Calvard Embassy. Magnificent. Wow, this is a Calvardian embassy. I didn't expect it to be quite so fancy. And yet it's a bit exotic as well. I really like it. Well, quite a few people from even farther east have settled in Calvard, you know. They've had an impact on our culture, too. Anyway, Elsa's office is the furthest room on the second floor. Alrighty. So I'm gonna sweep, because I'm pretty sure if it's not this embassy, it's gonna be the Erebonian one for sure. It's gonna be in like a bookshelf, I think. All Night series. Okay, I think it's in one of these, so I have to scan every book. This read isn't that bad. Okay. This series has a little, it ties into the game story a bit. So, but they're really short. Long ago in a certain little village there lived a young boy. He was some 13 years old. His name was Pedro. Pedro was a small boy, not very strong, but his fingers are dexterous enough to astonish anyone. When he moved his whittling knife, wooden blocks would turn into birds and wonderful creatures that by magic. The boy spent his days with these crafts as his life. One day, strange travelers came by the village. An old man with sharp eyes and a large man in black garb casually strolled into the general store. Whereupon their eyes were drawn to a wooden bird so cunningly carved that no one could almost hear its wings beat the air. I'm not going to read the whole thing, I just want to start this up because just as a refresher for myself. After inquiring with the owner of the general store, the old man and his escort came on the little house where Pedro lived. And the first words they had for him were, "Prepare your things, we're leaving for the city." Pedro's eyes widened in shock at the order. "What is this?" he cried. "Who are you people?" His eyes fell on large men in black. Pedro's words were caught in his throat. The old man chuckled. "So you did notice. I thought you would." When the old man's fingers stretched transparent threads, he gestured and the black-garbed man bowed gracefully. The immense man was a clockwork puppet. "He is the Black Priest," the old man said. "My finest work." His wrinkled face creased further as he smiled slyly. He was the famous Master Capri Oratoria, a puppeteer known throughout Luna. Oratoria fixed Pedro with a beady eye. "You could craft something even greater than this. Does the mere thought excite you?" No more words were needed. Tossing his carving knife into a sack, Pedro fixed his cap on his head and greeted his new master by saying farewell to his old home. We'll do one more. Chapter 2. Years passed slowly for Pedro at Oratoria's workshop on the outskirts of the capital. Under the tutelage of puppeteer Capri, he learned the techniques to build clockwork puppets and the skills to make them dance and perform. After 3 years of training, he completed his own masterpiece, a doll of noble bearing dressed in armor with a gleaming blue helm. If Capri's masterwork, the Black Priest, was a martial arts type focused on maneuverability, then Pedro's blue puppet was a well-balanced swordsman. Its counterattacks as it turned aside the Black Priest's punches and kicks with the very image of a graceful knight. "What will you call it?" Capri asked. Pedro had no answer. He'd been so focused on its creation that he hadn't actually thought of one. Ultimately, it would become to be called the Blue Knight before he could name it. It was some time after Pedro constructed the Blue Knight that the king, who ruled from the city, would pass on from the world. The king had long been ill, so there was little shock, and the mourning period passed smoothly. And so, in accordance with the law, the king's only daughter, Princess Tia, would ascend to the throne as queen. So, what the story series goes over is Pedro and his heroicism with his Blue Knight, Clockwork Puppet as they're called. And I believe eventually he turns on the Black Priest, and furthermore he's attacked by another puppeteer named the Harlequin. Is that all of them? Chapter 8? Yeah, that's all of them, okay. I'm pretty sure the card's in one of these books. So you have to actually, like, thumb through all of them. I don't remember if he kills the Harlequin. I know that the Harlequin, like, taunts him, hitting him with that emotional damage. 13. 13. 13. There it is. There's a card trap between the pages. Called it. The door has already been opened for the Dance of the Valorous. Oh, look what I found. Oh, I get it. I guess this is technically considered Republican territory. It absolutely is a foreign manse. And the Blue Knight is a character from the novel, I think. Jeez, he sure is detail-oriented. Anyway, I got a feeling that next one's the last of them. Dance of the Valorous. Well, now where could that be? Okay, there's a bunch of those. So, let's go meet, Elsa. It's up here. This should be the ambassador's office. So we say hello to Elsa? Yes, we'll talk to her. Let me introduce you. Hmm? Yes, come in. Join us, Elsa. Why, Zin Vathik. Hello, come in. Last I heard, you'd returned to Calvard. What's an old dog like you doing back here in Gransel? Well, let's just say this old dog had a trick or two more to show off. I'll likely be here in Liverpool for a while. As to be expected of an A-break bracer, I suppose. You never let up, do you? So who's this with you? Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. I'm Estelle Bright of the Bracer Guild. These are, assistants, Olivier Lenheim and Chloe Rins. A pleasure, Ambassador. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ambassador. The pleasure is mine. I'm Elsa Coltrane, Calvard's ambassador to Liberal. I get the feeling this is a bit more than a social call, though. I'm afraid so. Estelle and her party asked about the threatening letter the embassy received. Ah, that letter, yes. You're helping the Royal Army investigate the matter, then? Technically, yes. Threats of terrorism aren't exactly something the Guild can ignore, either. Would you mind helping us out? Well, I suppose. We're well stuck into the situation after all. What would you like to know? Well, to start with, do you have any idea who would have sent that letter? Or does anyone in the Republic oppose the signing of the pact, or... Well, of course. We're looking at one, after all. Huh? Elsa, please. Try not to tease the kids too much, eh? Well, the truth's in. I'm pretty sure I've chewed your ear off about Erebody enough for you to know what I think, Well, yes. Still, Miss Bright, don't misunderstand me. President Rocksmith and Parliament have already proved the pact. My personal feelings won't get in the way of my job. Right. Is anyone else in Calvard who might oppose the pact? Oh, certainly. They're all tiny groups, though. And to be honest, there's no real reason to oppose it anyway. No reason? I don't quite follow. It's not worth bothering. The pact doesn't have any practical effect. It's simply agreeing to the statement, we shall not rely on violence to solve international problems and negotiate instead. It's more of a declaration than anything else, but it is little more than a promise which can be broken without consequence, save a loss of face, no? Precisely. The worst it could do would be to rally other countries against the aggressor. Now, it's true that relations between Erebody and Calvard have gotten even worse than usual over the past decade, so there is some value in establishing Liberal as a place where we can negotiate. But again, who'd bother opposing that? Yeah, it doesn't really seem like a thing you'd send a bunch of threatening letters about. Well, Ambassador Coltrane, if you don't believe someone from Calvard is the perpetrator, then whom do you suspect? Well, my gut, of course, tells me to blame it all on the Erebonians, their militaristic hawk faction specifically. But frankly, even they have that new engine on the line. They aren't so stupid as to cut off their noses to spite their faces. The new engine? But you mean the one from the Orsay? Yes, an engineering sample will be provided to both Calvard and Erebonia. It'll happen right after the signing, in fact. Oh. Ah, as to be expected of Queen Alicia. She holds both Empire and Republic in the palm of her hand. Yes, I have to admit she's handled this masterfully. That cutting-edge engine is going to birth a whole new generation of airship designs, and Alicia is practically handing it out, so long as you sign this agreement and play nice with it in each other, at least for a while. Even the most testosterone-poisoned ninnies among the Erebonian hawks would want to miss this chance. Yeah, I guess so. Which means, of course, that the possibility that either the Republic or the Empire interfering directly is pretty low. Indeed. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. No, you were a big help. Just being able to cross the suspects up the list helps a lot. Speaking of which, though, we'd like to ask you something else. Stell asked Ambassador Cochin about Ren's parents. Harold Hayworth, a merchant from Crossbell. I can't say it rings any bells, I'm sorry. He's never visited the embassy, at least. Darn. Well, thanks. Do remember that Crossbell sits directly between Ereboni and Calvart, however. You may want to inquire at the Erebonian embassy as well. Thanks, Ambassador. And thanks for being so open with us. You're quite welcome. I'm glad I could help. By the way, you said your last name. You said your name was Estelle Bright. You wouldn't happen to be Brigadier General Bright's daughter. Oh, you know Dad. Of course. The heroic vanquisher of the Imperial Army, and now the head of Liberal's Royal Army. I'd heard he had a daughter, but I didn't expect to meet you like this. Well, I'm just kind of an inexperienced newbie myself, still. You're off to a good start, then, I think. We at the embassy have relied on the guild a number of times in the past. Should the time come again, I hope you'll aid us, Miss Bright. Well, if the chance comes up, sure. Well, we'll see you around. Nice. Okay, so that's one story beat off. Wording. Dance of the Valorous. I don't remember, is there? I don't think there's a theater here. Might be the arena? It's unlocked. Entrance here should be kept locked as long as there's no show like the martial arts. Okay, it is the arena. In which case, it seems this is our goal then. Alright, let's get inside. Ooh, we got the scary music. Ooh. Okay. Go here. Locked. Locked. Upstairs? Nope, okay. Must be the other side then. Over here. There we are. I love how massive Sprite is. The Grand Arena, kind of nostalgic. It's like we were just here yesterday. Just standing here has me recalling the admiring roar of the audience. We were invited to the castle after you won the martial arts competition, right, Estelle? I wish I could have joined you on the field. Thinking about it, I was still pretty amateurish. But you know, once this whole thing is cleared up, I'd like to take part in next year's martial arts competition. Test my own ability for one. Now that sounds like Cassie's daughter to me. I'd like to join in on the action too. I don't really feel like I'd have a chance against you, Zin. Well then, I shall sing from the seats to cheer you on, Estelle. I will serenade my love for you as mightily as I can. Pass. Oh. Ooh. Monstars. Monsters. This feels reminiscent of some old Coliseum games. The setting is certainly apt. It's a pity we lack an audience. Here they come. This is Master Crayon. Okay, so she is all... okay. And with the Hellgate. And Olivier. And with the White Gehenna. That should basically clear it. What was that? It's like a magic trick. A fabulous display. He's a fitting rival indeed. It's even weirder than I thought he'd be. Oh, whatever. Let's check the contents. Yep. can see a portrait of Arce. There is a card stuck to the bottom of the box. My princess, my rival and brave bracers. Did you enjoy the show I prepared for your arrival? As I do not wish to upset the mood of our main role, it is time for the supporting actors to take their bows. I hope you will look forward to our next chance meeting. Some chance meeting. I wish you'd cut it out. But there's something curious about it. Main role? Supporting actors? What does that mean? Now that you mention it. Ah, screw it. Let's go return the photo to the archives. There we go. I can't thank you enough, Bracers. Still, why would that phantom thief fellow steal a portrait of the Arce? It certainly is lovely, but it's really nothing more than a simple portrait. It has little monetary value. But he doesn't really care about value so much as he cares about pulling off a good prank or two. It's probably our fault that the museum got wrapped up in his latest one. Sorry for putting you through all this. No need to apologize. It wasn't your doing. If anything, I'm very pleased with how you handled this. Excellent work. Alright. Another one done. I think that's all the side quests for the current time. So let's go to Tennyson first, and then go to the news station. This is divided in two areas for whatever reason. There we go. Okay. Good. Yep, okay, those are all done. I don't think there's any difference which... Let's see. I don't think there's any difference in which order you do this. Other than having to do Calvard before, Erebonia. What is that? Hey, Chief, it's been a while. What do you need today, Business with Nile? Got some questions as with guild business. Is he back from Rouen yet? Yeah, he's back, but I think he stepped outside to do some coverage. Ah, figures. He always does seem pretty busy. Well, that's our job after all. Don't know where he is, but I heard he'd be back by the evening. Okay, got it. Thanks. It seems we should start somewhere else. Yeah, this could probably be the last place we visit. Okay, so we're gonna do this last. So we'll do... the Bodine Embassy next. Then the castle. Embassy Nile. So everybody's this way. Here. Oh, hello again. Lord Ambassador Krennig and Major Vander just returned. Ah, perfect timing. Will we go in then? Sure. Yep. Welcome to the Erebonian Embassy. Do remember that the embassy is Erebonian soil, so be careful, yeah? You will be. Very nice. Erebonian Embassy. This is quite the building. Whoa. This place definitely matches the Calvardian Embassy in terms of fanciness. Grandiose and yet powerful at the same time. It's very imperial, if nothing else. It is a stage upon which the Empire can parade its influence and power. Alas, that the actors are unequal to the set dressing. You realized Lord Krennig would hit the roof if he heard you say that. Mueller, my most bosom companion. It has been an age. Are you well, dear Mueller? It'd be better if I could cut you in half and be done with it. I told you, again and again, to ensure we're constantly aware of your location and you... Ah, but 'tis a tactic in the war of love. Did you know? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Estelle Bright, you have my thanks. I can only imagine the trouble this idiot's been causing you. Actually, he hasn't been too bad, I guess. He's been really well-mannered, comparatively. All ignoring the lunatic. I presume you have business here at the embassy. Yes, sir. We'd like to speak to the ambassador. Estelle explained her desire to meet with the ambassador concerning the letter. That letter, right. I've been somewhat concerned myself, but I'm surprised the guild is acting. This is a request from Brigadier General Bright and the Royal Army, I take it. Technically, yes, but we're trying to investigate as neutrally as we can, you know. Nobody's guilty until proven, that kind of thing. A commendable mindset. No doubt why he chose you. Very well, I shall introduce you to Lord Ambassador Krennig. I suspect you'll find it easier to gain his trust if I do the introductions as opposed to a certain someone. Really? Thanks, Mueller. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, sir. Wait, you really have so little faith in me? You, thought we had faith in you for this? If you introduced us, you'd probably want to have us kicked out. Sorry, Olivier. The sting of being forsaken. Sting of the truth, maybe. Lord Krennic is in his office on the second floor. I should go announce your arrival. Give me a moment. We'll wait then. There goes the Mueller. We don't have to explore this, we can just go straight there. So this is the office. Wow. Indeed. Shall we make our grand entrance and shock the ambassador into silence? Mueller can totally cut you in half, you know. I apologize for the wait. Lord Krennic will see you now. Let's go then. Welcome to the Erebonian Embassy, guests. I am Lord Davil Krennic, the duly appointed ambassador and voice of the Empire in this land. I'm a Stillbright of the Bracer Guild. Din Vathic, also of the Guild. I'm Chloe Rins, second-year student at the Janus Royal Academy and assistant to the Bracers. And I am the servant of love and peace, Olivier Lenheim. Ugh, you. I'd heard you'd gone missing in Elmo Village. Not have to worry Mueller further, Olivier. Or me, for that matter. Such a strict dressing down. Much more and I'll have to lose my jacket. Setting that aside, you're here to inquire about the threatening letter, yes? What do you want to know? Okay, I'll be direct, sir. Do you have any idea who might be behind the letter? Is there anyone in the Empire who might oppose the signing of the pact? Ah, you are direct, young Bracer. I appreciate that. I can tell you truthfully, however, that I can think of no such person. His Majesty is very happy with the pact as it stands, in fact. And no one within the Empire would be foolish enough to gainsay his leadership on such a matter, of course. Yeah, I bet. So you think it's the work of someone outside the Empire, then? What other answer could there be? If you want my opinion, it's the opposition party and Calvar behind all this. Some little silly ploy to make the president look bad, no doubt. Opposition. Doing whatever it pleases. This is a perfect example of the fallacies of mob rule. Huh. I have a question that, your lordship. Don't get me wrong, our major political parties basically beat each other over the head any time they can, but even if the pact fell apart due to this, I don't think anyone can blame it on President Rocksmith. Details. You think the mob thinks like that? Ha! All I can say for certain is that the person issuing these threats cannot be from our empire. That should be more than enough assurance for you. Well, excuse me, Lord Krennic? May I ask what Chancellor Osborne's opinion of the non-aggression pact is? What? Flawless riposte, Chloe. Who? The highest appointed official of our most glorious and august imperial government, the Blood and Iron Chancellor, Iliath Osborne. His nickname comes from his personal motto, our nation's peace must be built on a foundation of blood and iron. He has overseen the expansion of the rail system, as well as the annexation of several smaller states at our borders through less than diplomatic means. Annex? Wait, you mean he... Olivier! How could you criticize your empire's chancellor? Oh, but Devil, how was I criticizing? I simply stated the facts. But come now, it would hurt to be a bit more cooperative, no? We've already spoken with the lovely Ambassador Cotrain over at the Calvardian Embassy. She was quite helpful, you see. What? Why, if we don't help these people now, it will give them cause to doubt the character of Erebonia. That would be a tragedy, wouldn't you agree? My Lord Krennic, there's no need to keep information related to this hidden. May I humbly suggest that being open in this case will not present a problem. You have a point, Mueller. Very well. To answer your question, Miss, Chancellor Osborne, like His Majesty, is most receptive to this pact. In fact, I hear he is actually the one who suggested His Majesty should sign it. Really? That's because he's looking forward to getting the engine, right? No, apparently he recommended it to His Majesty before any mention of the engine. If anything, I'm glad there is harmony at home over this pact. There's been no pressure for us to negotiate. Hate to say it, Estelle, but it's looking like there really isn't any chance it's someone from the Empire. Yeah, looks that way. Ambassador, thanks a lot for answering our questions. See? It is as I said. If you're looking for the guilty party, you should look elsewhere. Oh, but one sec. If you don't mind, we have one more question. Estelle asked Lord Krennic about Ren's parents. Yes, the most pitiable situation, the separation of a child from her parents. Imperial traders do visit the embassy at times, but a merchant from Crossbell? I do not recall such a man, no. Are you familiar with this Hayworth, Mueller? No, I've never heard of the man either. Really? Aw, this is starting to look kind of grim. The search at once for both a blackmailer and a lost child's parents sounds most trying. It may seem trite, but I do wish you luck, young lady. Thanks, Lord Krennig. Allow me to show you to the gate, then. Some world building. Political intrigue. I think this series does political intrigue and plots very, very well. Because sometimes they can come up as really, really boring. Thanks, Wheeler. Talking with the ambassador was a big help. Oh, you don't need to thank me. I didn't do anything important, really. Besides, this is a problem affecting all our nations. We should be working together. Indeed. I do hope we can solve this. Olivier? You're awfully quiet. Oh, it's nothing. I was simply lost in reverie for a moment. It doesn't concern our current business. Pay me no mind. Okay. Olivier, you'll be staying here at the embassy in the evenings while you're here at Grancel, yes? Where else? I would not miss the chance to have more sweet dreams in your bed, as always. What? My. Stop with the jokes before you give the ladies too many ideas and images. Push those jokes too far and I may have to spear you upon the embassy flagpole. Ah, so that's a direction I should approach from. You teach me more every day. Alternatively, I could just cut you in half right here. I'm fairly sure I could explain it to Lord Krennig. That would be rather less lovely. Forgive the joke, my friend. So that's how you keep Olivia under control. Maybe I should write this down. I'd say they match each other perfectly myself. That's a terrifying thought. Well, regardless, I shall pardon myself here. Good luck with the rest of your investigation. Thanks again, Mueller. Okay, looks like we got some daylight to burn still. How about we put the liberal news aside for a moment and go to Grancel Castle instead? After you. Okay, next is the Queen. Say, you're the winners of the martial arts competition, right? Yeah, that's us. Thanks for your help back then. No worries, so what brings you here today? If you're here to see someone, that can certainly be arranged. Or did you just want to have a walk around the palace? That's okay too. Actually, I'm here on bracer business today. Which is to say, hello Dan, Alex. It's been a while. Your Highness! Princess Claudia, you're not aware you returned. Sorry to startle you two. I'm afraid I'm here on business though. Estelle and I have some things in the castle to attend to. Could you let us pass, please? Of course, Your Highness. By your command, milady. Wow. Only slightly popular, isn't she? I think I'm starting to get why that Duke guy is so jealous. Now entering ladies Chloe and Estelle and their entourage. Open the gate. Please come in. Thank you, you two. Well, Estelle, welcome back to my house, as it were. Come on in. Thanks. We need to find the Queen. Grancel Castle. Okay, time to nose around the castle a bit. So obviously we should talk to Queen Alicia, both to ask her about the letter and just say hi, but... Let's see, who else? Julia's gone, right? Yes, she's currently at least in Fortress overseeing the refitting of the Arcee. Well, that's gonna make things a bit harder on us. She probably could have given us a lot of help with this mess. Who else could we confer with, I wonder? With Julia absent, I think our best bet is Hilda, at least considering Ren's parents. If the Hayworths have ever visited the castle, she would know. Yeah, Hilda seems to have some sort of castle sense for these things. So where would we find them, you think? Grandmother should be in her chambers at this hour. And Hilda, if she isn't in the maid's room, they can tell us where she is, at least. Good idea. Maid's room in the Queen's chambers. Off we go. Okay, this is the maid's room, I think. Miss Estelle! And Miss Claudia. Mr. Zinn, too. Pardon me, it's been quite some time. Sure has. Yeah, it reminds me of when you lent me your maid uniform, Shea. I think it's Shay, actually. Stella's a maid? Yeah, it was to meet with the Queen. Oh, and Joshua had to wear one, too. Shay did her magic on his face with her makeup. She was all pumped up to do it. Oh my. Thank you very much. Joshua, who once played the role of Princess Cecilia so perfectly, also portrayed as a maidservant. Oh, noble endeavors both. I'm sure it must have been quite beauteous to behold. I regret all the more I could not attend the Duke's banquet. Alright, Shay, do you know where Hilda is? I believe Mrs. Hilda is in the library. As I recall, she said she had something to look up. Library, got it. I don't remember where the library is here. No, it's a locker room. Library is this way? No. Here. This is a storage room. Oh, this is the sealed room where the final dungeon is in the first game. Where is this library? This is the kitchen. Dining room. Main hall. Really on the second floor. Here? No, it's helmet. Okay. Upstairs then. You know what? It's this way. I think it's above the bar. Oh, never mind. It's not above the bar. This goes to the. It's not one of these rooms. Here. No. Is at the end of this hallway. Aha. Oh, there she is. Princess Claudia, and Miss Estelle, too. Hello, Hilda. I'm sorry if I startled you, but I just got back. Hi, Hilda. Sorry I've been out of touch. It's quite alright. I'm glad to see you well. I understand the princess has been assisting you, Estelle. I'm very glad to see the two of you home safe. Aw, Hilda. You're embarrassing Estelle, Hilda. Speaking of helping Estelle, though, I've returned partially to inquire about something the guild is investigating. Could we ask you a few questions, Hilda? If I can be of assistance, ask me anything. I think there may be a few too many onlookers to speak here, however. Let us borrow a guest room. Yes, I see. You're attending to the investigation of the letter we received, then. I take it you want to know if I have any idea who the sender might be. That's it exactly. We're investigating all the locations that received letters to see if we can ferret out some clues. Well, firstly, thank you for your efforts. Just receiving that letter was unsettling. I'm afraid I can be of little aid in naming suspects, however. The only thing I can say with confidence is that it is not the work of anyone in this castle. Yeah, we kind of figured that one. Who was the letter here addressed to out of curiosity? No less a person than Her Majesty herself. I check all letters addressed to the Queen, so I know the contents of the letter. And believe me, if I could lay hands on the rude fool who wrote that. Pardon me. I was wondering, were there any other suspicious letters delivered to the castle recently? Ones critical of royal decisions, for example. Ah, well. Hilda, please, help us for my sake, if no one else's. We need as much information as we can in order to make a judgment. Very well. There have been several letters delivered with no indication as to their senders. They were not particularly critical of royal decisions, per se. They were largely petitions to reduce or annul Colonel Richard's sentence. I suspect at least some of them are from citizens of Gransel, but the rest I cannot be sure on. People want Colonel Richard free? No less than expected of the man who once strove to be my rival. His popularity endures, even after his capture and shaming. The Colonel is very skilled and competent, and everyone knows that. It isn't unusual at all to see people regret losing him. I personally bet on those letters are not being related to our little threat. So, requesting something in the royal hand is one thing. Trying to force it to do something is a whole different thing altogether. Well, still, even knowing the letters exist helps. One more thing, Hilda. I want to ask about something else. Estelle asked Hilda about the Haywards, Ren's parents. Harold Hayworth, a trader from Crossbell. Yes, I remember him. Say what? Is he an acquaintance of yours, Hilda? Not as such. He asked for a tour of the castle interior a few days ago. I happened to be otherwise unoccupied, so I showed him about. His wife and daughter were with him as well. Really? Hey. Alas, this provides us with little clue as to where the Haywards may have gone. Yes, my apologies. There was something that bothered me, however. What would that be? A child greatly enjoyed the tour. However, her parents felt as though they were barely even present throughout the entire thing. They seemed even tempered and normal enough when they spoke to me, but when combined with your story, I wonder if they were under strain. Not able to pay attention after coming to see a place as a tourist. Sounds like something was on their minds already. Yes, it seems likely they were in some kind of trouble even then. This may give us a clue as to where they went. Thank you very much, Hilda. I think this gave us some good leads. I'm glad it could be of help. Oh, Princess, you'll be staying here in the castle tonight, I trust. And if your friends lack accommodations... But? I had intended to stay here while in Gransel, yes, but, you know. Well, how about it, everyone? Ah, you forget. They're expecting me to be a pest at the embassy tonight, and I can hardly disappoint. I do appreciate the offer, however. Yeah, and I've got what's basically a permanent room in the Calvardian embassy. Thanks, but I think I gotta decline this time. I should probably ask Shira and Tina before committing to anything. We've got Ren, too. That's true. It sounds like she loves the castle. I shall keep the rooms ready in case you wish to stay. Thanks, Hilda. Thank you, Hilda. Not at all. I must return to the maid quarters. Please, let me know if you need anything else. If you'll pardon me. Okay, so we still need to meet with the Queen. She should be in her chambers, right? Yes, I'd be surprised if she isn't. Let us not keep her waiting then. One more, the Queen. Well, I still have to fight Mead Nile, but... So, we have to go to the... garden first. There we go, the terrace. Up here, I think. Yes. There we go. Ah, you finally arrived. Huh? Grandmother? Scree? Seek? I see. Seek was being thoughtful, wasn't he? Yes, he let me know you were coming. Welcome home, Claudia. And Estelle, you're always welcome so long as I remain queen. Your father explained everything, not long after you left to train. It pains me to know you carry such a burden. Oh. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Still, I know what I gotta do, and Chloe's been a huge help. So I'm okay, don't worry. I see. Your soul has gained new steel since we last met, Estelle. Mr. Vathic and Mr. Lenheim, both of you, of course, are also welcome in my home. Let us retire to my chambers. I shall have some tea prepared. Ah, so you've come about the letters. I wasn't aware they'd been sent to the cathedral and the embassies as well. Your fears are not groundless. It is difficult to think of such lengths as a mere childish prank. Yes, Your Hardness. Hardness? Your Hardness. Your Highness. Your wrinkliness. That's why we're trying to talk to people affiliated to the case to see if we can find some clues. Grandmother, do you have any idea who might be responsible? Especially someone within Liberal. Claudia, what do you think? Me? As a possible heir, your thoughts should daily be on the forces moving within our nation. Would you share your opinion with me? Very well. Deep breaths. I don't believe there is any force in the country which is truly opposed to the pact. I've heard in various places, however, that following the coup, some of our extreme right-wing citizens are feeling very concerned. Their frustrations might be at the root of those letters. Maybe. Very good. My opinion is more or less the same. Sorry, but I don't quite follow. Alan, Colonel Richard, was not the only man who approved of the idea of expanding and empowering our military. In the wake of the failed coup, however, the matter is effectively untouchable. I can only imagine all who share his mindset are quite dissatisfied and worried for our safety. Okay, so, you think the letters are from believers in military control and expansion, like the intelligence division guys still on the run? That would be the short of it, yes. If that is the case, then I would say I bear the responsibility for this as much as they. It was my beliefs that led them to take such action in the first place, after all. Grandmother. I don't know. I don't think they have the right to be all, blah, let's threaten people and be scary because we're sore losers. No, there are few things more precious than the freedom to express oneself, Estelle. Remember, even those who promote military empowerment and a war footing do so out of a love for Liberal and its people. They have as much right to express that idea as any of us have ours. And listening to all such opinions and choosing how to guide the country, that is a ruler's responsibility. So, in that case, I rather doubt they'll actually try to stop the ceremony, yes? Assuming the letter is from the expansionists, yes, that's quite possible. With Colonel Richard under arrest, they have little power with which to act. The problem lies with the idea that someone else may be responsible. If that is the case, then I fear I can offer you little advice or knowledge. Ah, rats. Queen Alicia, if I may broach a question. Of course, Olivier, whatever you wish. Why are you so determined to act upon this non-aggression pact now? Your own country is still deeply confused and unsettled from the coup attempt. Most rulers would think this is a time to focus solely on one's own country, not the affairs of others. Olivier, you are talking to a queen, you know. It's alright, Estelle. Olivier has a point. The plans and proposals for the pact, however, far predate the coup. Further delays would only harm the dignity of the nation. The crossbow issue is causing a great deal of friction again as well, and I hope this can help. Crossbow? That's where Ren's from, isn't it? Yes, it lies due northeast of here over the Crone Mountains, I think it's Crony Mountains, and directly between Erebode and Calvard. But the Republic and Empire claim it should be part of their governments, and some Crossbellans want total independence. It's quite a mess. Crossbell is basically a fishbone stuck in two throats at once. All the issues surrounding it just get called a crossbell problem. I see. Why, no wonder people get worked up about it then. Ah, so your aim is to pluck out the bone with this pact then. To continue the analogy, it is not a bone that can be removed in one gesture, sadly. If I can open a way to resolve the issue, however, yes. Laying the groundwork for resolving that issue will strengthen peace across the entire region, and people will remember liberals spurred it on. I have underestimated you even more than I previously thought. Our invasion of liberals was far more of a fool's errand than I'd even imagined. That much, at least, is painfully obvious to me now. What are you going on about? Oh, wait, Crossbell, Ren, duh. Sorry to change the subject, Your Majesty, but Estelle asked Queen Alicia about Ren's parents. My goodness, a child, abandoned at the royal villa. I must have instructed Raymond to keep me better informed, it seems. I know it's a shot in the dark, but I don't suppose you have any idea where they might be, Your Majesty. No, I'm very sorry, but I do not. However, if they visited the castle, especially recently, Hilda would know of it. Have you spoken with her? Yeah, we did. Hilda only said they were behaving a little strangely. I see. Well, should you wish, I can contact Mayor McDowell in the Crossbell government. If that would help, ask whatever you need. Oh, thanks. Grandmother, thank you for all your help. We need to move on, unfortunately. But, don't be nervous. I know what you wish to say, I think. You will be staying in the castle tonight, yes? Let us speak then once you are no longer busy. Alright. The plot thickens greatly. My goddess, such royalty. I would say she is the only person on the continent with that sense of balance. Yeah, sort of feels weird to say coming from a democracy, but she's the perfect ruler. I kind of envy Liberal, to be honest. Of course. She's the queen, after all. Poor Chloe. Chloe? What's wrong? Oh, it's nothing. I was just struck again by how incredible a woman grandmother is. I really doubt I can ever live up to her. Oh. Princess. When did Her Majesty the Queen take the throne? Oh, she was 20, if I recall correctly. And may I ask your age? I'm 16, but... my point. I truly doubt Her Majesty was a master politician the day she took the throne. And you are not yet even as old as she was when she first donned the purple. I see little point in comparing yourself to her as she is now. Wouldn't you agree? You martial artists tend to say that only those with the proper capacity can achieve this thing called unity of purpose. Even those with the greatest innate skill, like, say, Walter, as the villain in the last chapter, only reach their peak through a journey of 1,000 steps. I think Her Majesty believes you have the capacity to get there, Princess. Just take it one step at a time. Don't worry. Olivier, Zin, thank you, really. Great job, you two. Always will be an awesome queen someday. I guess you get good with pep talks as you get older, huh? Get older? How rude. I'm a fresh, youthful 25. 5 years younger than Zin here, even. You're one to call out someone on being rude, Olivier. Well, anyway, you've spoken to Hilda and grandmother both. Yep, back to town then, I guess. Let's be off. There's a lot of dialogue in this chapter. This is one of the better chapters in the game, though. This is going over a lot of plot points and world building, which will be useful in later games. Evening. Evening already. Time does fly when you're having fun. I should be back by now, hopefully. Hopefully. Alright, let's get over to that newspaper. Here we go. I don't know if you can find Tita and Ren walking around. I just don't remember. I think they hang out over here, but I don't know for sure. Well, if they did, they're not here now, so we can go to the newspaper. Go ahead and save. A lot of dialogue. Oh. Liberal News Service. Alright, Niall. Do that, buddy. There he is. There he is. Hey, Niall. Hello. Who what the hell? Now, what do you know, you guys? How you doing? Good day, Niall. Pardon our intrusion. Oh, it's that bard guy and, Your Highness. A good day to you, yeah. You even have Sydney and Movable Calvard with you. Yeah, kind of a gang going here, Estelle. A lot of stuff's happened since we last met. How'd your coverage of the election in Ruan go? Damn well, that's how. Got the article done thanks in part to you guys. Speaking of, what brings you by today? Got a hot scoop for your old buddy Niall? Well, actually, we're the ones who'd like to know something. We heard the Liberal News received a threatening letter. You guys are investigating that thing? I figured the military would have been taking care of that one. We're working on requests in the military, actually. So do you know anything? I just got back to the capital, so I don't know much. To be honest, I'd like to hear what you guys know, if anything. That's real helpful, Niall. Come now, you're a newsman, a hound for a good story. Surely you must have a clue as to who our villain is. I don't have time for this. It's a bit impolite, you two. Niall, I know this is a lot to ask, but please, if you know anything at all, share it with us, please. Oh, hey, Your Highness, you don't need to lower your head to me. We're crying. Fine, fine. Okay, so this is off the record, but we ain't the only ones who got a letter. Not even close. At least the Fortress got one, and the Cathedral, the Airship Company, the Hotel Roenbaum, and then both embassies, Gransel Castle, and the Irby Royal Villa all got one too. There were 9 letters in total. Something wrong? Niall, we heard that from the military already. What? Damn it, that was my big scoop for the day. It doesn't look like we're gonna get much out of this. Yeah, time to move on, I think. You wait just 1 second, Missy. Keep talking like that, Niall Burns, star reporter for the Liberal News, is gonna have a name worth a pile of crap. Alright. Let me in on my take of this whole mess. Well, okay. You may want to be brief, Mr. Burns. Fine. Listen up. Here's the short of it. My gut tells me this is some kind of huge prank. The threats aren't real. We thought of that too. Sound awfully sure, though. Might tell us why you're so convinced. Okay, trick is, I've covered terrorist threats like this before, right? But with this, there's no reality to the threat. That's only working at power if they describe, or at least imply, something nasty that's gonna happen, see? These letters have exactly none of that. Mr. Burns does have a point. Disaster will be visited upon you does not offer much in the way of a specific terror. Exactly. I got a hunch this isn't about stopping the signing ceremony at all. This is more about getting people worked up over a threat, and then sitting back and watching the fireworks. I see. That's kind of a good point. There is some sense behind it. I'm still bothered by the fact that so many letters were sent, though, and each and every one was sent to a place involved with the ceremony. Yeah, for a prank, whoever did this seems to know a lot about what's happening. It does seem kind of true, on the surface. Think about it, though. All that info would be pretty easy to find with a little digging. Hell, I knew about those places weeks ago. Anyway, I'm gonna be working this on the assumption that it's a prank. Maybe you guys should stick to your guns about it being a real threat, and we can compare notes later, eh? Good idea. Thanks, Niall. That actually helped a lot. Alright, it did. Just stop by if you want to swap stories. I'll be sitting around here until the pack sign. Okay. Speaking of sitting around here, I don't see Dorothy anywhere. Alright, she's off working the Bose region. I sent her to snag some photos. What, for a special of some kind? Yeah, related to the Royal Army. You remember that old fort the Skybanks were using as a base, right? The one you guys busted. The Army decided those rats had the right idea and have claimed and repurposed it as a training facility. They're running airship pilot training out of there now. Oh, okay. Neat. So she wanted to get coverage of the base then? That's the idea, yeah. I was a little worried about sending her out on her own, but gotta do it sometime. Dorothy out on her own, huh? Scary. Oh, wait, duh. Speaking of girls on their own. What's up? Estelle explained the situation with Ren's parents. Harold Hayward, the trader from Crossbill. Never heard of the guy. Pretty sure he's never been in our classifieds or our wanted column either. Figures. But hey, this is part of the job, right? You guys are totally stuck, I'll help you out. You can put him up in the classifieds if you want. Maybe have a few people in Crossbill I could poke. Thanks, Niall. You're way more reliable than I thought you'd be. I think I need to upgrade my opinion of you. Of course you do. Wait a minute, what do you mean? Was I not reliable before? Just kidding. Alright, let's get back to the guild house then. Jerzard should be back by now. Hopefully, yes. Thank you again, Niall. It was no big. Come by again anytime. I love Niall. It's a shame they took away his cigarette, though, in the remake. Gives him a bit of character, especially for his design. Okay, so let's definitely save here. Let me save before story beats. We're back. Welcome back. Sorry, I know we're a bit late. Hey, where are Tita and Red? They returned just before you did. I believe they were enjoying the spoils of a hard-fought shopping campaign on the second floor. Sounds like they had fun. Anyway, we've got a lot to report. Yes, please. I see. Sounds like you had a fairly productive day then. I guess. We didn't get anything decisive though. Shara, did you find anything? I managed to find a very large pile of nothing. The hotel, the cathedral, the airship company. No one had the slightest clue as to who would send such letters. The leader of the airship company is deathly afraid the sender might demand money next. There haven't been any follow-up letters though to anyone. Damn. Doesn't really narrow things down much. How likely do you think it is the societies behind all this? I don't think we can safely say that at this point. Their primary focus up till now has been experimenting with those bizarre gospel ornaments they possess. And we know that gospels can create phenomena otherwise unimaginable. Those devices certainly haven't shown an ability to create threatening letters from nowhere, however. Yeah, this doesn't seem like really matches society's MO. I guess Rowan and Zeiss just have me on edge. No, it's perfectly understandable. Regardless, I think we can safely say we've done our part. I'll compile all your testimonies into a report. Could I ask you to deliver it to Colonel Sid at the Irby Royal Villa tomorrow? Sure. We didn't find the center in the end, so I feel kinda bad, but I guess that's all we can do. Oh, Irby, right. Sure, did you find anything out about Redden? I did have some results in that end, though not in the way I expected. Let me start with the hotel. The Haywards, all three of them, definitely stayed there for about 2 weeks. They kept the same room for the entire time in a fairly typical tourist fashion. It was only just this morning that they checked out. Okay. They then visited the cathedral. It seems the Haywards came to worship a number of times while they were here. However, the father who ministered to them said he felt there was something off about their behavior. But they seemed distracted during prayer specifically. That would match what Miss Hilda said. Yeah. And finally, the airship company. That's where things get very strange. Strange? How so? Their names are Harold, Sophia, and Ren Hayward from Crossbill, yes? There are no records of anyone matching those names, nor that nationality, and the records go back 6 months. No way, but that is a mystery. Though perhaps they traveled by land. Did Ren come to Liberal by land? Wait a minute. That can't be right. When we first met her, she was talking about landing in an airship. Ah, that was the last time we saw her at Air Letton, the waterfall. Yes, at Air Letton. She said she saw a lake on the way down. Troubling. It's possible they were traveling under assumed names. Assumed names? Why would they? They may have had something to hide, or they may have been hiding from someone. Either way, they must have known something was wrong before they set out. I've contacted every guild branch in the country about Ren's parents. For the moment, all we can do is wait for more information to come in. As for Ren herself, I think it would be best if she stayed in the care of the guild for now. Yeah, I'd feel terrible if she got wrapped up in something. Would you leave her with me, maybe? This mission kind of feels personal now. I was going to suggest it, actually. Thank you. The guild will pay for everyone's lodgings while you're in Gransel, naturally. That includes Ren, so don't worry. Thanks, Elnan. Wait, speaking of staying the night, might not actually need that tonight. You see, Estelle told Shira about the invitation to stay at the castle. Right, that's quite an invitation. It is. Honestly, I'd absolutely love to stay there again, but I'm afraid I'll need to decline this time. It will be far easier for the guild to reach at least one of us at the hotel. I hadn't thought of that. I might hear something about Ren's parents. I guess I should stay at the hotel too then. Sorry, Chloe. No, don't worry. I'll explain the situation to Hilda. I'm sure she won't mind. Zin and I are to stay at our respective embassies. The princess shall retire to her castle naturally. So that means you two and the girls will be staying at the hotel then. Parting on these terms would be dreadfully dull. Since we're all together this evening, shall we enjoy a nice dinner at the bar? Good idea. And you know, I'd actually like to hear you play the piano again, Olivier. It's been a while. Ah, sweet maiden, you know just how to pluck my heartstrings. Have you come to appreciate an mature flavor at last, I wonder? Okay, Olivier. I'm going to snap those heartstrings if you keep it up. Snapping or no, we should get going. With a group this large, it could be hard to find seating. Alright, let's call the girls and be off. That evening, Estelle's group and Ren had dinner at the Sunnybell Inn. Olivier, as if it were second nature, took to the piano after a few drinks. Ultimately, even Mueller and Niall were called to come and join. And so passed a pleasant evening in Gransel. Night falls. Okay, let's split up here then. Chloe, be careful on your way home. It's not that far. I think I'll be fine in the capital. Huh? Miss Chloe, you live in Gransel? Yes, I do. I'll be staying at my grandmother's house. Well, if you'll pardon me. Have a good night, Chloe. Good night, Chloe. Wow, that was one heck of a party. Olivia even dragged poor Mueller into it. And who was it that dragged poor Mr. Burns into it all, Not that he seemed to mind. Well, I figured, what the heck. Ren, did you have fun? Yeah, I did. The food was good, and everyone was talking about neat stuff. The piano music was really pretty too. Yeah, Olivier is really good at it. I was kind of surprised. Well, he's not all hot air when he calls himself a traveling performer, I guess. Sure you want to duck out already, Shira? Zin and the others are still having a lot of fun. Professional courtesy, Estelle. If I stayed, you know I'd just drink them under the table. Since we do have work tomorrow, I thought I'd cut out early and spare them the pain. Fair enough. Let's go get our hotel rooms then. Pardon, are you the Bracers and company we are expecting? Forgive me, but we were unable to secure a 4-person room for you. Would you be willing to accept a pair of 2-person rooms? Oh, sure. How do you want to split them up, Shira? I'm fine with any arrangement. Set it up however you please. I want to be with Miss Estelle. You've been busy with work, so you haven't any time to talk at all. Not fair, Ren. I wanted to be with Estelle too. Then you should have said so sooner, Slowpoke. I know. What if all 3 of us stayed in the same room? We could share a bed. No, that's okay. I'll let you borrow Estelle for tonight, Ren. Thank you, Tita. I think I just got horse traded. You do have a way with the ladies, Estelle. Well, at least the 2 of us, Tita. How about I show you a few tarot card games before we settle in for the night? Okay. Oh wow, this room isn't like the one I stayed in with Papa and Mama. There's a big building outside the window. Oh. Joshua had to shit his room for a while. I'm sorry, this is Joshua's... the room she had with Joshua. Miss Estelle, what's wrong? Nothing, really. More importantly, I'm sorry, Ren. We couldn't find your Papa or Mama today. It's okay. Papa and Mama promised they'd come get me. And you don't need to search so hard. But Papa and Mama are very good at hide and seek. Not as good as me, of course, but still good. So I don't think you'll find them very easily. Is that right? Well, I won't try so hard to find them, but only if you're okay with it. Yeah, it's okay. It's for the best. But never mind that right now. I have 2 big favors to ask of you. Oh? What's up? I can't tell you unless you promise to do them ahead of time. Yikes, did your papa teach you to drive a bargain like that? Okay, sure. If it's something I can do, I promise I will. Really? Yay. The first thing is, can I call you Estelle from now on? Huh? Call me... Oh, you mean like drop the whole Miss part? Yeah. Nita gets to call you Estelle all the time, so I don't want it to call you Miss Estelle. Is that right? Alright, I don't mind. I never stood that much on formality anyway. It's not like I'm your teacher or anything. So you really don't mind? Estelle. Oh, I love it. Glad you like it. Call me Estelle as much as you want, Ren. Okay, Estelle. That makes me happy. Aw, that's good. So what was the other thing, Ren? Oh yeah, well, can you tell me why you were so surprised when you came in the room? Ah, you had this really sad, lonely look on your face. I want to know why. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. See, I've actually stayed in this very room before with someone else. Stepping in here just reminded me of him. Really? Was it your lover? Was this your love nest? Not quite. He's someone I've known for a really long time, and we've gotten very close, but, well, it's complicated. We're not together right now, though. Oh. Well, what kind of man is he, huh? What's his name? What does he look like? Yikes, questions. His name is Joshua. He has black hair and amber eyes, and he's pretty handsome, I guess. Actually, you'd really call him more beautiful than handsome, really. Beautiful. Let's just say he made a great princess in a certain play. In fact, it looked amazing on him. Wow, that sounds fun. Can I meet him? When are you seeing him again, huh? I don't really know, actually. Oh. You don't know when you'll see him again, and that's why you look sad, right? Sort of, but I'm okay. I'm gonna find him and drag him back home, even if it takes years. But why did you seem so sad? Well, because I'm sure Josh was off somewhere and way over his head. And I can't do anything to help him. That makes me sad, I guess. Sorry, Ren. This must be pretty boring since you don't know Joshua at all. No way, it's neat. Joshua is a really wonderful person, huh? Wonderful. Actually, right now, I think he's a bit of a jerk. I mean, talk about selfish ways of saying goodbye. Taking my first... Huh? First what? Nothing at all. Okay, yep, I'm all tired. Time to go to sleep. Hey, no fair. I'm not going to sleep until I hear the whole thing. Why, I messed that one up. After that, Estelle and Ren went to bed, but remained awake for a while, talking about various things. Eventually, once she could hear nothing but Ren's slow, peaceful breathing, Estelle gave in to the exhaustion which had been piling up on her eyelids and fell into sleep herself. Oh boy. Abandoned mine. Time is in. Okay. Bingo! Yep, looks like we find our rats. But they're holed up in the old mine, huh? Not a bad spot, all things considered. This is where those sky bandits kept that ship they hijacked, right? I think so, yeah. Estelle and her team ended up fighting the bandits in the big central hollow a bit further in. Nice big open space, huh? I bet our guys are in the same spot. So what do you think? Going for the heroic charge now, or...? Yeah, we don't have time to contact anyone. No heroics, though. At least not yet. First we sneak in and take a look at how many men they got in there. Right behind you. There they go. That's weird. This is definitely their hideout. But where the hell is everyone? Yeah, we totally tracked them here. So where'd all those intelligence weirdos go? I kind of figured out we were onto them, but... screw it. Let's have a look around. No good. This place is an empty shell. You see anything, Agate? Not a friggin' thing. Can't even tell if they're just out or they ditched the place or what. Not even any clues as to where they went. About that, I didn't find any mention of where they were going, but I did find this over in that tent. Hey, let me have a look. These are blueprints of some kind. It's like it's for something called the Orgay. Orgale? Looks kind of like a vehicle of some sort. Ooh, Orgale. That sounds cool. What is it, some kind of airship? Can't really tell. Seems a bit small for one. What the? What's wrong? Some kind of note between the pages. I've sent out the invitations. I've got the table and chairs ready. Everything's ready for the tea party. Now all I need is to bake some crumpets and wait for the guests to arrive. Ah, a tea party. That's really cute. It's like something out of a storybook. Kind of code, I guess. What the hell does it mean, though? Tea party. Gotta be some kind of... Scatter! Ah! No way. How'd they sneak up on us? There's some serious stealth skills, guys. That's another trick you learned from Lieutenant Red? No answer. Agate? Yeah, I see it. There's something wrong here. Okay. Paint to a side, crush one corner of the triangle. Take out the rest. Ready? Leave it to me. Go! Oh, you have to actually do the fight. I don't remember this, but I do remember is using this. Wait, no, using it. Oh, I guess I can't use this. That's okay. Agate still plays the same as he does in the other one, so you just use this. All rage. I forgot that's 60% of his HP. It's like way less than the remake. It's like 30%. Alright, time to kill. It's your brothers. That's right, the other survivors. Oh, they're about to meet their end here.
You ready for this?
Kaboom! The survivors were no more.
Care for a rematch?
His old voice matches his old art, but I still like his remake voice. The voice they gave him later on too. What's with these guys? I mean, we beat them, so whatever, but that was a strange fight. I think they were on drugs or something? Like crack? I remember hearing they used something like that to control some thugs in Iran, I think? Nah, that was different. This is like hacking at a stone art. What great fun! You two aren't half bad, are you? What a treat. You. I am Enforcer number 0, Campanella the Fool. I am but one hand of the Society of Ouroboros. Oro, finally decided to show your face, huh? Just what's your scheme, anyway? What the hell are you planning on doing with what's left of the intelligence idiots? I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm a little more than an observer this time. You're asking the wrong person if you want details about the plan. In fact, I barely know them myself. An observer? The hell? Anyway, if you want to attend that tea party, you'd better hurry. I'm not quite sure where it's being held, but it isn't here. Or shall we share some coffee instead and enjoy the dawn together? Kid? You look pretty young. Are you really part of the society? I don't mean to be insulting or anything, but you might want to get away from them. They're bad people. You're very kind, miss. But you know, it's okay to laugh at a fool. That's what he's there for. But worrying about the fool, now that's quite rude. Ah. What? How the hell? You beat them senseless. Ah, you bracers really are naive. If you really want to defeat someone, you have to break them into pieces. Like so. Shit! You little... You... That's... How could you? Did I surprise you? It's so easy to break even a well-made toy, isn't it? But I'm afraid that's the end of the Fool Show for tonight. Well, hopefully I can give you an encore someday. Get back here! Ah, swing and a miss. Agate, I know. They weren't guilty of any crime so bad they deserve to die like this. You can't leave him here, just laying around. Hey, go kill some time somewhere, alright? Kid like you doesn't need to deal with this. I'll take care of it. But But what? The hell? Agate? I think this arm is fake. The Lord of
Fear
Brisker.
the tube.
Good to see you. Okay, enjoy your lurk. Thanks so much for the viewership, man. Appreciate it. I think this arm is fake. You're kidding. Gears, springs, quartz fragments. And we got the attack up too with this nice little tube. These things are archaisms. Orbital machines capable of independent action. Ah, it's the priest. What? And who are you? Don't worry, I'm no enemy. I'm Kevin Graham of the Septian Church. You're Agate Crosner and Annalise Elfeed, right? I don't suppose you'd be up for swapping some stories, would you? Well... that's quite the twist. Archaisms. Rah! Here comes Big Dawn. Kaboom! Oh. Kyle, you're up. Here I come. Renatos. Josette. Okay. Damn. Joshua. Edgelord. Oh my Wabo. Shinderu. Oh. And just like that, they're dead. Impressive as always, Joshua. You three were impressive too. We defeated them in a single sweep thanks to your combo attack. Cut it out. Flattery will get you nowhere. This is like the 10th group, isn't it? How many more do we need to hunt down? This should be enough. The Royal Army should move soon, so it would probably be best for us to disappear. Right then. Still, just what is a society trying to do? Why use these dolls dressed up as Richard's goons? That's the real question, though. Where are the rest of the intelligence men? They're probably gone to the tea party in that note. The dolls are likely to distract the army from that, and make them think Richard's men are still active here. Makes sense, I guess. She knew what the hell the tea party was. Well, we don't have that much of a reason to help, but sure you don't want to crash that tea party? The Bracers should be investigating that camp by now. We could leave it to the army and the guild. Yeah, we left them the note and plans. That'll be more than enough. But we're taking care of all these frickin' puppet things while the guild's busy. We can just leave the rest of that airhead in their group, right? Sorry. Didn't mean to pick at an old wound or anything. No, you didn't. They have nothing to do with me anymore. Once the tea party begins, the army will be focused on that. We can move once that happens. Alright then. Time to get busy. Mechanical soldiers. It's probably apparent now why I read the first 2 chapters of that Doll Knight book series. The next day, Estelle went to the Irby Royal Villa to give Sid the report on the letters. It's Fred and Tita playing around the fountain. I see. This report is very thorough. Thank you very much. You investigated this quite well. I guess. I'm still kind of miffed we couldn't find out who sent the letters, to be honest. This is more than enough information for an initial investigation. I doubted we'd uncover the party responsible for the threats at this stage anyway. If anything, this gave me exactly what I needed. Information to consider what we might need to defend against. Thank you, Colonel. So how have your preparations been going? We finished our initial deployment yesterday. We'll be using the villa as a patrol headquarters until the signing ceremony is concluded. So that's why there are so many soldiers out and about. And I'm guessing that's why we're there, like, no monsters on the road over there, or over here. We conducted an extensive monster hunting sweep this morning. We'll be performing them periodically until the ceremony ends. My Colonel, keep doing that and you might just put us out of a job. Well, you have something of a point. Speaking of civilian concerns, how about that girl's parents, the ones you mentioned yesterday? I haven't heard any reports that they've gone through any of the regional gate posts. Nuts. Let them do it. Wait, I guess. I'll let the guild know the instant we hear anything. For the moment, you've done fine work with this investigation. I'll have your payment wired to the guild ASAP. Thanks, Colonel Sid. But what should we do now? Want us to help out with the patrols in the capital once we get back? Well, if you plan on staying in Gransel, I wouldn't turn away the help. I do know you're very busy with other matters, however. I won't insist on you staying. Well, we still have Ren's situation to deal with, so we'll talk to Elnan about it all when we get back. Yes, that seems like the best idea. Sir, excuse me, sir. Elk, what's wrong? Don't worry, these people can be trusted. Very well, sir. We've received a phone transmission from headquarters at Leyston, sir. Remnants of the intelligence division have been sighted in the Bose region. What? You're kidding. Details, man. Explain. They were first sighted by some bracers. I'm afraid we don't have all the details on their confrontation yet. However, General Bright has ordered all army stations to stand by at level 2 alert. I see. Thank you, Mr. Belk. I suspect we're going to be busy fairly soon. Seems like it. Estelle, we should get back to the guild at once. Right. Colonel said, good luck with your patrols and stuff. Stay safe, friends. Estelle. Estelle, Shara, are you done? That was kind of quick, wasn't it? Didn't I tell you? We just needed to turn in a report. You could have just waited at the guild house. Aw, that's mean. I just want to stay with you, Estelle. Tita, say something to her. Me? Well, I do want to stay with Estelle all the time, but she has work to do, so I don't want to be selfish. Fine then. In that case, I'll just have to run off with Estelle myself. You don't get to play, Tita. Aw, Red, you're so mean. Come on, you two, don't fight. Tita, you're the older girl here, so let it slide, okay? But, you two seem really close all of a sudden. I'm not annoying, am I? Oh, come on, sweetie, like I could ever stop loving you. Ooh, the hug? Well, Tita, you keep making that sad, lonely face, and I'm just gonna have to hug you all up. Stop, Estelle. Hey, Tita, pity hugs are cheating. You get much more popular with the ladies, Estelle, and Olivier might get jealous. Put that out of the way, though. We really need to hurry back to the guild house. Oh yeah, we should. Did something happen? I'm afraid so. Remnants of the intelligence division have been found in Bose. That's awful. Yeah, but we're still a bit fuzzy on the details. Elna could hopefully tell us more. We really need to hurry back then. This isn't fair, you guys. I don't know what you're talking about at all. Sorry, Ren. Basically, something very important has happened, so we need to go back. Oh, well that was easy. Too bad. It'd be fun to play hide and seek with all these soldiers. We could use the whole forest as a hiding place. That'd be fun, right? That might be fun, yeah? Let's not do that and say we did. Okay, you guys ready to go? Go, we shall go. Hell out of here. Hey, isn't that... What is the meaning of this? You deliberately besmirched me, Doden von Auslese, the rightful heir to the throne? No, your grace, not at all. In fact, this morning we put a plan into motion to slay any monsters along the road to Gransel. You'll be completely safe with the allotted escort. That is not the point. An honor guard of a mere 3 men is wholly unacceptable for a man of my stature and importance. I demand at least a full squadron. 10 men. Go. But your grace, please do not demand so much of them. Her Royal Highness has finally given leave for us to return. Please, we should consider ourselves lucky to have received such kindness itself. Silence, Philip. This punishment was the height of injustice to begin with. Given the outrageous grievances levied against me, I should demand nothing less than the whole Royal Guard to meet me. Well, we may not be the entire Royal Guard, but we could go with you if you'd like. You. Miss Estelle. Haven't changed a bit, have you, Duke, old buddy? It's not very dukely to railroad everyone with your selfishness. Very you, but not very dukely. How dare you call me buddy, you impertinent nobody? Why are you even here? The villa was supposed to be closed off to the common rabble. Yeah, you see, we had actual work to do here. So going for a walk, old buddy. More than a mere stroll, girl. Prepare to be shocked. At least she has come to her senses and released me from the unjust punishment which bound me here. Unjust punishment? They actually released you from house arrest? Indeed. Word arrived from Her Royal Highness this morning. She instructed us to depart from the villa and return to Gransel Castle. Her Majesty's heart really is too big for her own good. Well, good for you, I guess. Well, try and keep a clear head so you don't get played a second time, okay? What? And don't you think you should examine your lifestyle a bit? You're kind of a slacker, buddy. Maybe you should start with a bit of exercise. What is it? Did I say something weird? No, it is exactly as you say, Mrs. Sill. If His Grace only had a better hold on his life, he would not have been so easily manipulated by Colonel Richard. Allow me to echo your suggestion. Enough of your lectures. Enough of this. I shall not remain here a second longer among such riffraff. We depart for the capital. Your Grace? Huh? Are you just going on about not having enough men? No. Come, let's go, men. And there he goes. His entourage of 3. Mrs. Stell, it may be an old refrain by now, but thank you. I'm not sure how to express my gratitude. Don't worry about it. But I don't know. I think you really need to drop the hammer a bit more, Philip. I think he's the way he is because nobody's ever really even scolded him, Yes. I don't really think he's that rotten. Deep down, so I think he can still change. But you think he just needs a hand? Still better be careful, the Duke might get her. You don't want to be got by... Yeah, I think the Duke is one of the last people. Even Olivier, once their filthy hands all over him. Mrs. Still, your words ring so true. Philip, why are you dawdling with peasants? If you keep loitering, we'll depart without you. Yes, Your Grace, I shall be but a moment. If you will excuse me. Poor Philip. Godspeed, Philip. No, I think we probably should have gone with them, but... Oh, Estelle. You really are Cassius's daughter. What? Estelle, you're incredible. Estelle, I kind of noticed when we first met. You're kind of, too nice, aren't you? Too nice, huh? Don't worry too much over it. Let's return to Gransel. Okay, there we go. Let's follow this path all the way around. It's a big-ass circle. The remake helped kind of solidify what the map of this area actually looks like. It is just a big-ass circle. Left? Yes, left. And then right, okay? Back to Gransel. And here. Actually really enjoying this, like, story mode run through. There we go. We're back! Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. You delivered the report, I take it? Yep, no problem. We just received the mission fee from the army a moment ago. Here, let me give you the reward. Yeah, nice. Bracer E+. A for Colonel Sid. He does some fast work. Anyway, more importantly, I'd heard some of the old intelligence guys were seen near Bose. Ah, so the villa was contacted as well. I thought that might be the case. We were just talking about that as it so happens. Yes, it sounded like some fellow guild members found them. Yes, it was Agate and Annalise. What? They discovered a base the Intelligence Division fugitives had been using in the abandoned mine near Revenue. Unfortunately, the base itself had already been abandoned as well by the time they found it. That's where we fought those bandits. I see. I wouldn't have thought to look there. You said they'd abandoned it already. Do we have any idea where they went? Actually, former Intelligence Special Forces men have been seen all over the Bose region. The border garrison is currently investigating the situation. Oh man, we pack it up and head over to Bose to help? No, until we get a request for help from the Bose branch directly, I would prefer not to act rashly. There's another reason for caution as well. It seems the Society has a hand in this. What? You're kidding. Agate and Annalise encountered one of their agents in the abandoned mine. Another enforcer, Campanella the Fool. Another new face. They also found several strange things in the ruins of the base. Firstly, they discovered plans for something called an Orgale, which seems to be some form of orbital-driven vehicle. They also found a memo, written in cipher, discussing a tea party of some sort. Orgale, tea party. Well, that explains everything and leaves us with no questions, no siree. What do you mean by orbital-driven vehicle? What is it? I'm more concerned about what a tea party could refer to. I just wandered off. Goodness, it's hard to simply stay here and wait after hearing all that. Come on, cool your heads, guys. The army and our guildmates are working hard over there. I'm sure they'll keep things under control. We'll hear about it soon enough. Exactly. I know it may make you nervous, but please remain in Grancel for the time being. For now, you may do as you please. Alright, I'm sure Olivier will appreciate... Hey, wait, where'd Olivier go? Ah, yes, the Erebonian embassy called a little while ago. It was Olivier. He said that he had a small piece of business to attend to and left. He did say he would return quickly. What that's about. Wait, speaking of missing. Where did Ren go? What? Huh? Oh. She was just here just a minute ago. Crap. Do you think she got bored with all the talking and went out to play? It's quite possible. We were going on a bit. Now this isn't good. Darn it. We need to do something about her if we're gonna leave Grancel. I'm gonna go look for her. I'll come too. I think I might know where Ren went. Thanks, Tita. Sorry, Elnan. Not at all. While you're out, I'll get the other branches up to speed and see if I can learn anything new. Please form your party. We choose one. Okay, so we have a trio. So, we'll take Chloe.
Great.
Zen's cool now, but Chloe has magic. Healing magic. Now then, where would I hide if I was a silly little girl? Tita, any ideas? We went by a lot of places in the Eastern Bloc yesterday. Maybe she's at one of those places. Which places? Let's see. First we looked around the department store. Then we went to the History Museum. And then we stopped by the ice cream stand over near the clock tower. Now you two were busy. Sounds like you had a lot of fun though, Tita. Let's begin by checking around those places then. Let's go fetch our stray kitten. Okay, 1 second. Okay, it's just a sewer monster that's long term, so no rush, no rush. Okay, so department store. Anton's still wallowing in his own misery here. I feel a lot better after burying my soul in the fevered chase of the sunset. Alright, no point just lying around here. I won't get anything done. Yeah, it's time to set off on a journey somewhere. I love Anton. He's the best NPC ever. Hey. There she goes. There she is. Quick, we gotta follow her. I think we lost her again. My goodness, it's like trying to catch a hyperactive kitten. Tita, you and Ren visited his department store yesterday, didn't you? Yeah. Might have gone somewhere else, though. I don't think she could have gotten too far. Let's look around the Eastern Bloc for her. They said museum and the ice cream shop. Right. Yeah. You said you came in here before, right, Tita? Yeah, we looked at everything. Good day. How are you visitors? Looking for someone, actually. Stella described Ren to the receptionist. Oh, that young lady in the white dress who was with the girl you're accompanying today. Yeah, that's her. You remembered us. Well, you two stood out a bit. And yes, I saw her just a little while ago. You should still be in the museum, I believe. Awesome, thanks. Okay, let's go trap a kitten. Okay, oh, you're not here. Not here. Go up here. Go Ren. More to be seen. A girl in a white dress. Well, there. Oh, she's gone. She was just here until a bit ago, so she can't have gone that far. Hey. Hey, miss. Do you know where the colorless fish are? Goodbye. Well, Miss, pardon me, your friends are... Wait, Red. Red, please wait. Still not here. I'm so sorry. I did try to stop her, but... No, it's okay. Did she say anything before she left, though? Yes, she asked you a very strange question. She asked, do you know where the colorless fish are? What? Doesn't seem like a typical question for a little girl. I think that's a riddle, actually. A riddle? What? I think she's trying to make us chase her by solving riddles she leaves behind. You're kidding me. Now she's running away from us on purpose? Oh, Ren, you little... Well, it's just a guess, really. Okay, little cat girl, you want to play nice like that? Let's do it. Not about to lose to an 11-year-old. Come on. Still, winning isn't the point. So, the riddle is, do you know where the colorless fish are? Yeah, so we need to find us some colorless fish first. Well, good luck. Thanks, Miss Alicia. Colorless fish. Shit, I don't know. Colorless fish. Actually, don't remember this. It doesn't help that my brain's getting a little mushy from the... I think it's 1:30 in the morning. Sometimes the NPCs have clues. Okay. Not in the port. Nope. There's a fountain, but there wouldn't be any fish in there, right? Bing, bong. Something glass? Oh, you might be right. Glass fish. Is there a glass fish somewhere? Ah! Fisherman's Guild. Nice one for Singer. Very nice. Colorless fish. Hey. Of course. Fish prints. Oh, interested in my fish print, are you? That's proof of my hard-earned glory, that is. Settle on down, and I'll tell you the tale of my valor. We'll have to take a rain check on that, I'm afraid. Sir, did a girl in a white dress come by here? Ah, she's your friend. Cute girl, that one, if a bit of an oddball. She asked me a very strange question and left, just like that. I knew it. What was the question, sir? If I remember correctly. Do you know where the bitter, spicy, delicious store is? It's definitely another riddle. Bitter, spicy, delicious. Got it. Alright, time to hit the stores. I think that's Lord Lake Lord, but I can't remember. Okay, there's food over this way. Coffee house, maybe? Because it'd be bitter, right? Bitter coffee. Say, barkeep, what are your specials? Our best specials are coffee, of course. Our most popular item is our dark roasted dragon bean blend. Our spice heavy curry is also real popular. Spicy curry and bitter coffee, huh? The bitter, spicy, delicious store. Pardon, but have you seen a little girl in a white dress? Yeah, she was in here not too long ago. Ordered a cafe au lait and seemed to love it. Thank you, French class. Come to think of it, she did ask me a very strange question, though. What would that be, sir? What was it now? Do you know where they sell the sweets that disappear if you leave them alone, I think? Sweets that disappear if you leave them alone. Okay, wrote that down. I think we're tightening the noose. I might know what this one is. Blah, 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 but I can't read. What this one is. This one... properly... Now this one should be pretty obvious. Save. Ice cream! Sweets that disappear if you leave them alone. I get it. Yes, if you leave frozen treats alone, they do disappear by melting. Oh hey, you're the girl from yesterday. Your cute little friend just stopped by for an ice pop. You two aren't together today? I thought so. Miss, did she tell you a riddle by any chance? A riddle? I don't think so. She's very cheerful and told me I'm gonna go see my friends at the landing port. The friends being us, I bet. Finally done with riddles, I hope. We've certainly been toyed with enough. Seriously, making us worry and run around like this? I'm giving her the biggest lecture when we finally catch her. Estelle, please don't get too mad at her. I think Renner's just kind of lonely. We've all been busy with work and her parents are missing, and that's true. We have neglected her a little. Ah, way to kill my righteous lecture fury, Tita. Either way, we need to get to the landing port. This way. Oh. Hey. Gustav. Gustav, hey. What? Tita. Whoa, Tita. And is that still bright? Hot damn. Long time no see. Yeah, it's good to see you're doing okay, Gustav. What are you guys doing here? It's kind of off the path for you guys. We're bringing these things over. Engines. Look at them. What the heck are those? Wait, that's gotta be... Yep, these are the samples of the XGO2. It's a new engine we developed for the Arcee. For the real deal, too. It's about as much performance as what we got in her now. So this is what it looks like. Neat. Really? Really? Oh, wow. It's tiny for an engine, but it really produces as much output as the sheet Grandpa showed me. The design is functional and adorable, too. It's amazing. Down, Tita, down. I think Tita's so high above the clouds she can't even hear you. A pair of engines brought to the capital. These must be the engine samples that will be presented at the treaty signing then. Yeah, well, guess word got around, huh? We just finished putting the Arcee back together, so we had to cart these over here. I see. Thank you greatly for your hard work, sir. Okay. Sorry, but you are... Oh, my apologies. I guess there's no point in hiding it from you, sir. I'm Claudia von Auslese. What? Wait, as in Princess Claudia? Yep, she's Queen Alicia's granddaughter. The Arcee is the property of the royal family, so allow me to offer my gratitude for your hard-working grandmother's place. Oh no, thank you, ma'am, your highness. It's always kind of a shock to hear about Chloe, isn't it? So where are you guys lugging these things off to anyway? There's a warehouse out near the water port we'll be using. They'll be stored there until the ceremony. Fair enough. Gustav, are you going back to Zeiss after this? Yep, we make trails as soon as these are locked up. Now, Tita, you behave yourself and stay safe. I will. Stay safe too, Gustav. Estelle, take care of our little Tita, you hear? You bet. See ya, bracers. Wow, so that's the Arcee's engine. I still don't really get how it works, but it looks cool. Yeah, seeing that was amazing. I hope I can make a machine that incredible and cute someday. I bet she will someday, Tita. She will someday. Okay, here's the landing port. Save. Ding dong. The Zeiss-bound passenger liner Linda will be departing momentarily. All passengers, please board immediately. Ah, Mueller. And Olivier. Farewell, Olivier. I don't know why I'm even bothering, but for goodness sake, please stay out of trouble while I'm away. Ah, such sweet concern. My heart, it soars. But fear not. Have I ever made you worry, my dearest Mueller? At this point, I can't even bring myself to care enough to worry about you. Just no international incidents. Please. For you, my beloved, I'll do my best. And there you go. Goodbye, Mueller. Hey, Olivier. Ah, everyone. Have you missed me so much that you have come to look for me? I am touched. As if. Anyway, wasn't that Mueller? I was a member of the Imperial Army boarding a passenger liner. Ah, it seems his duties have called him to Bose temporarily. You recall that gang of sky bandits, yes? He's gone to retrieve their airship. Oh yeah, the little green bucket they had. But wait, why would Mueller care? The ship is of Erebonian manufacture, remember? And the bandits who abuse it so are still at large. The Imperial government would like to retrieve the evidence, that is the ship, and assist in capturing the criminals. Or at least that is what they have told Liberal. I still don't get why Erebonia should care, so the airship is made there, so what? Well, the fact that the bandit leaders are former Erebonian nobility tarnishes Erebonia's luster, shall we say. I suspect they'd like to have it well swept under the floorboards before the pact is signed. That is, before the Republic has a chance to comment on it. The bandits are former... Wait a minute. That tomboy and her brothers are... You were truly unaware? They're the family of the former Baron Capua. He was a landholder on the Empire's northern march. Several years ago, the Capua lands were seized as collateral in payment for an enormous debt. I never realized. It's really sad, actually. I don't know what to say to that. Even so, it isn't exactly what I'd call an airtight excuse for airborne theft. Regardless, I came to see my stalwart companion off. I'm afraid none of this explains why you're here, though, if you did not come for the undeniable pleasure of my company. Looking for Ren. You haven't seen her, have you? Ren? Isn't she standing right over there? Ren? What? When did she... Hey, Ren! You cannot just disappear like that, okay? And not only that, but you ran away from us and confused a whole bunch of people in the process, and... I'm sorry, but I was so bored. Also, I brought some cookies and tea at the department store. I bought enough for everyone, so please don't be mad, okay? Well, it was quite a bit of fun for us too, Estelle. Let's just call it even and let it go. I suppose... Okay, you get to escape a scolding, for now anyway. Really? Hey, Ren, good job. Shall we return to the guildhouse with feast in hand then? It's possible some new information has come in. Right. Has something happened? Apparently there's something going on in Bose. Wait, didn't you say Mueller is going to Bose? So he is. Tell me the details as we walk. Yes, let's go. Turn to the guild. I think I still have time to do that sewer monster. Hey, Estelle. What's up? I'm not angry anymore, don't worry. No, that's not it. Besides, you aren't scary even when you are angry, Estelle. If you want to see scary little girl, I can totally arrange it. But what's up then? Well, while I was out, this boy gave me a letter to give to you. A letter? Yeah, it was weird. Here, take it. Ren handed Estelle a letter. Huh? It is addressed to me. Yeah, like I said. Who's this from? I think the letter might tell you. I kinda peeked. Oh, well, let's see. Estelle, open the letter. My dearest Estelle, I've thought this over again and again, and now I realize there's something I absolutely must tell you. I know this is a lot to ask, but can I meet you alone? I'll be waiting this evening at the Garune Gate above the Annenberg Wall. What? Is it from who I thought after all? As soon as I saw him, I remembered you telling me that story and figured it was the boy you were talking about. This... Ren, who gave this to you? A really cute boy with black hair and amber eyes. He asked me to give it to you when I was at the landing port. Of course. That was the Joshua you talked about, right, Estelle? Maybe. The writing looks like his too, so it's gotta be him. Evening at the Garune Gate, above the Annenberg. Evening? Idios, it's practically now. Estelle, honey, what's wrong? Alan's about to brief everyone on our findings. Why are you out here? Shira, what should I do? Estelle, what's wrong? Come now, tell me. Estelle wordlessly showed Sherazard the letter. This is from Joshua, isn't it? I think so. Ren said she got it from someone that looks just like him. I see. Alright, off you go. What? I'll come up with something to tell the others. Or would you rather stay here and mope? Oh. Shira, thank you, thank you. You too, Ren. Thank you for telling me. Goodbye. There she goes. I think I'm gonna miss the sewer monster, but that's okay. She's gone already. Does she really want to meet Joshua that badly? Yes, she does. Joshua is the whole reason she's traveling after all. It's the whole plot of this fucking game. driving force to find the Joshua. Above the Annenberg wall at the Grüne Gate. We've got to hurry. I don't think I can go back to... Yeah, okay. Okay, Grüne Gate, Grüne Gate. Okay, so east first. I think we'll probably see the end of this chapter. I know it's gonna be later than I usually go, but this is peak. This chapter is one of the best chapters in the game. It's evening already. Crap. Okay, calm down. Above the Annenberg, in other words, on top of the wall. Gotta hurry. Up. Up. This layout is really strange to me, but you have to go all the way around to get to the very top. There we go. A black-haired boy. Oh, no one like that here. If there is anyone, he'd have to be on the southern side of the wall, I guess. That's where most of the tourists are guided to. You get to the south side, go down the stairs, head to the south door. This should get you there. Okay. Joshua, fairest Joshua. Wherefore art thou Joshua? I'm aware of what wherefore means. There's always that one person's gotta chime in. Alright. Ah. Duke Doonan! He was at the wall the entire time, tricking. No, I'm just kidding. Curse that Philip in his incessant scolding. Who does he think I am? I'm Doonan von Auslese, and I'm the rightful heir to this country. I think I drank too much beer. That curry stuff is quite tasty, though. I suppose lowering market shelf to the level of the peasants can be enjoyable sometimes. Peasants. Those brats. Claudia and that bracer girl. How could little girls like them? Why do they confuse me so with their words? And their suffering is great indeed, your highness. Uh-oh. Here, Richards. Captain Canone Amalthea, your highness. It is good to see you well. Though I suspect I may have caught you at a bad time. What do you want from me? You're a wanted woman, you know. Uh-oh. Ah! Don't be so tense, your highness. You might get hurt. I simply need your help, that's all. If you would come with me... Joshua! Huh? What? That's not Joshua. That's Kevin. That's the priest. Estelle, that you? Kevin? But why are you here? He isn't here. Well, hey, been a while, hasn't it? How's this for chances? You don't think there might be a destiny thing between us, do? Kevin, listen. Did you meet anyone else on your way here? Someone else? Wait, you here to meet someone too? Yeah, Joshua. Hold on, you too? Yeah, I got called out here by a letter. Really? Me too. What a crazy coincidence. I know, right? Or not. No way, this is just coincidence. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. So then, Joshua called you out here too. Huh. Joshua? Ain't that boyfriend you were talking about? I had no idea. I think Joshua would be quite that, well-seasoned. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. Love can fill in any gap in age. You think that mean I'd have a shot, though? I kind of get the sense we're having two different conversations here. You said you got called here by a letter from someone. Who? Yeah, a letter delivered, addressed to me at Grantsell Cathedral. The man who delivered it was a fairly handsome middle-aged guy. But Joshua's the same age I am. Why would you ever think he's some old dude? Really? Oh, of course. I was wondering what's up with that. That's my line. But then, what the heck is going on? Wait, this is really just a coincidence, a trap. The middle-aged guy was Joshua's. It's a trap! Huh? Uh-oh. What? I was afraid of that. Oh man, so much for coincidences. Here they come. Drones. What are these called? Port seekers. Unknown machines that attacked out of nowhere. Alright, show them what for. Put them what for. Alright, show them what for. Didn't quite show them what for. Show them what for. Oh, couldn't quite show them what for. Okay. Show them what for. There we go.
We're good to go.
Nice. These are... Ugh. There they go. What the heck was that? And those things, they were less like monsters and more like... Yeah, they were kind of like the archaisms in Grancel Castle's sealed ruins. Puppet weapons of some sort. This is a weird thing. I wanted to bring this up. At the end of the remake, the machines inside the final dungeon were called golems. But originally they were called archaisms. And in this game they're called archaisms. It wouldn't make that big a difference, but golems are established as something completely separate in later games. Minor spoilers for the world building. So I'm not sure what the deal with that was. Trick is, they looked like they were built recently. What do you mean? Well, archaisms are ancient, you can tell by the wear, right? But looking at them, the way the orbits are made, those things are modern. They're just about as good as the ones from down below, too. Oh, I see. Wait a second. How do you know what's beneath Grancel Castle? Hey, who goes there? A soldier. Thought I heard something. You two, what are you doing here? Wait a moment, please. We were just attacked by strange machines. Strange what? Sorry to have caused a disturbance, sir. Actually, the little lady here's a member of the Bracer Guild, you see? We're in the middle of some investigating something. Huh? A Bracer? Really? Estelle, make with the notebook and badge, why don't you? Let the nice man know he doesn't need to shoot us in the face. Oh, sure. Estelle showed Warrant Officer Grace her notebook and badge. They look real at least. What's this something you're investigating? A terrorist group would call themselves the Society of Ouroboros. They've been conducting experiments and causing trouble all over the country recently. We were pursuing a lead on them when we got attacked by these machines. Wait, come to think of it, HQ did tell us to keep an ear open for things relating to a society. So are those guys out on the roads also with this group then? Wait, hold on. Someone showed up on the roads? What do you mean? We just got word from the squad guarding the Irby Royal Villa. They were attacked by an armed group. What? Good news is, Lieutenant Colonel Sid and company managed to send him packing with no trouble. At the moment, they got the roads closed and they're hunting the attackers. Ah, great. Things are really getting serious. We should probably book it back to the guild house then. But, yeah, those guys might be the same ones you're after. Alright, we'll keep an eye on this area. You take it back to the Capital Guild House. Go on. Thanks, sir. Come on, Estelle. Let's get back. Wait, hold on. There he goes. Or Estelle's completely left in the dirt with this shit. It's a bit hard for her to keep up with. Now, just a damn second, Kevin, if that's even your name. You can't weasel your way out of this. Guess you won't just let it slide, huh? Cheeky winks aren't helping your case, Buster. Look, who in the hell are you? You know what you're doing. You know about Grancel Castle. You know about Ouroboros. Don't tell me you're just some wandering priest. I promise I've never lied to you. I am a full priest of the church. Though it's true that I'm not just a priest, you could say. Yeah, that's super reassuring, not sinister at all. I'll explain everything later, and I do mean everything. I was serious when I said we should get back to the guild house, though. I have a feeling some serious stuff is going down. Serious stuff? I'm totally confused. I was going to see Joshua again. I did all this about that letter from your boyfriend. You sure it's from him? Huh? Yeah, from what the girl who gave me the letter said. I can't imagine it's anyone else. But this girl doesn't actually know you're Joshua by sight, right? In that case, it'd be easy enough to get someone who looks close enough. But even the handwriting is like Joshua's. It's easier to spoof handwriting than you think, especially if you know how a person writes. It's definitely easy enough to fool someone who, already wants to believe. Here's a letter I got at the cathedral, for the record. Kevin produced an envelope from his pocket. What? Not so. We both got the same envelope. The letter I got promised me a juicy lead on what I've been investigating. So both letters are done by the same group? But two? Why? No idea. Maybe the society, maybe someone else. All I can say is, they got us both, hook, line, and sinker. Oh, she's mad. Don't. With me. Huh? I don't know who those jerks are, but they don't get to screw with me. Pretending to be Joshua, trying to lure me to my death? I won't let them get away with this. You hear me? I'm beating your faces in, you jerks! Oh, my ears. Calm down, Estelle. Getting worked up and losing your focus is exactly what the people behind this want to have happen. Let's head back and go over what we know, okay? Yeah, okay. So Kevin, just to be clear, I still don't trust you. If you do a big dramatic reveal as an Ouroboros agent or something, I will brain you. Got it? Don't worry. Like, I'd love to get hit by you. I'm always willing to sacrifice my body for the woman I love. What are you... Oh, come on. Stop trying to distract me from my burning distrust here. It's what I do best. But like I said, back to the guild house. Let's go. We have a Kevin in our team. And a Kevin needs to be... Oh, wrong way. A Kevin needs to have his equipments. Stat. Alright. Speed up, definitely. Opposites. Okay. Jump. Sure. Absorbance. It's action 4. Let's cast 2. And a strike would be... Wait, no. It would be 4. There we go. This way doesn't miss his auto attacks. Okie dokie. We're getting there, we're getting there. Progress. Kevin reminds me of a spring onion with his funny hair. Sundown's already. Hope things are okay at the villa. Well, they might have contacted the guild. Come on, let's go check in. Right. Kevin? Sorry about some of the things I said back there. I was kind of out of it. Hey, it's cool. You're a bit messed up because you're thinking of your boyfriend. I get it. Not worried about it, so relax. Thanks. But I'm sorry. I still can't fully trust you. 'Cause Zing, can't win, can I? Well, I should be able to convince you that I'm not an Ouroboros death merchant or whatever at your guild house, you see. Miss Estelle. Philip. Hello, pardon me for imposing on you, but Miss Estelle, I must ask, have you seen the Duke? Duke Dunham? You met him this morning. Has something happened? I would like to know. He left at around noon and has yet to return or even contact us. I've searched all the places His Highness might have gone, but... Oh, what's he doing? We're busy enough as it is. You know what? Philip, come with us. We're going back to the guild house. If the Duke's in trouble, someone might have contacted the guild. That is true. Allow me to accompany you then. And who are you, sir? Kevin Graham, traveling priest of the Septine Church. A pleasure, sir. Very polite. I am the butler to Duke Dunan von Ausleys. Philip. Come on, we can do big introductions later. Let's get back to the guild house. Call still. Alden, I'm... Uh-oh. Alden! What? Damn it, this must have been their next move. Alden, say something. Calm down, Estelle. He's breathing normally and peacefully. It's like he's in a deep sleep. I take it this is the Grand Sword Guild receptionist. Yeah. Oh no, everyone! No. Shira, Olivier, Sin. Tita, Chloe. Damn, they got everyone. Are they all okay? Looks like it. They're all just asleep. What the hell happened? If I must hazard a guess, Mrs. Stell, they were put to sleep with drugs. They all look as though sleep took them very suddenly. Yeah, good point. Catch. Wait, what's this? A letter? Hold on a second. That's the same kind of envelope we got. It is. Estelle ripped open the envelope and read the letter. I've taken the Duke and the girl. If you want them back, come attend our little tea party. What? His Highness. So the tea party is in the capital after all. Thought so. Who's this girl they're talking about, Estelle? Girl? No. Ren? Ren, where are you? Kidnapped, I'm guessing. Another member of your team? No, she's just a kid we were taking care of. Can't believe we got her involved in this. Estelle. Miss Estelle. Philip, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure Dunan's been taken as well. You need not apologize. If it's true, it is his responsibility for going off to play about on his own. Do not blame yourself for his failings, Mrs. Estelle. He's right, Estelle. First we need to figure out what the tea party in the letter is. Right. I've taken the Duke and the girl. If you want them back, come attend our little tea party. I kind of remember Eldon saying something about a tea party in relation to the intelligence guys. Gotta go to bed, see you. You gave yourself a good night's sleep, man. I'm actually about to wrap up here. I thought I could see the end, but I realized this next part's gonna take a bit, so we'll call it there. Right after this cutscene. Have yourself a good night. Wait, Kevin. When I read the letter, you said it's in the capital after all. Oh, you heard that, did you? Yeah, about that. I think I can help you out there, Kevin. Hey, nice timing. Huh? Agate. Hey, Estelle. Looks like things got kind of crazy around here. Guess neither of us got here in time, Kevin. Damn it. Yeah, nobody's hurt, thank Adios, but I got no excuse. Agate, why are you here? And what are you talking about? How do you two know each other? I think Eldon might have filled you in on what we found in Bose, the intelligence goon's base. We met this guy there. He helped us track down where those thugs went off to. Oh, I see. That's why you set up the speed then. Bingo. Agate. Analyst. Estelle, yeah, you're safe. Hey, Kevin's here too. Yeah, afraid I didn't make it in time though. How's the phone downstairs? No good. Someone removed some crucial bits, so it's totally useless. Damn, wonder if they... Nah, same with this one. So the enemy broke them. Yeah, no question. Just wish I understood what the hell it is they're trying to do. Oh, Agate. They left this letter. Estelle showed Agate the letter and explained the situation. Tea party, huh? Now I'm starting to get it. It's those intelligence bastards who kidnapped the Duke and that girl. It's goddamn Ouroboros behind it all. Yeah, we got attacked by some weird machines. But what does attend our tea party mean? Where are we even supposed to be? Could be anywhere. We'll have to search the whole city. Analyst, got a favor to ask you. Sure, what's up? You should go over to the Irby Royal Villa and get in touch with the Patrol HQ there. The guys on the roads are just a distraction. The city's where things are gonna go down. Oh yeah. The goal is nothing less than dominance at the capital, I bet. Understood. I'll run until my legs fall off. Analyst, be careful, okay? I will. You too, Estelle. Philip, right? Mind staying here at the guild house? Don't worry, we'll get your Duke back. Very well. I will attend to your friends while I'm here. Please, recover His Highness. Whew. Man. Squads 1 and 2 are moving along the western scenic route. They should have the enemy surrounded shortly. In the eastern division, several intelligence division units are fleeing to beyond Roble Pond. Squads 3 and 4 are in pursuit. Good work. Proceed until both groups are neutralized. Sir. I must admit, sir, I don't understand your thinking. Do you think this could be a diversion? I have a full company stationed at Gransel Castle. But if they box us in here, they won't shut us down completely. Unless there's a Malty of some ace up her sleeve we don't know about. Ace? Excuse me, sir. What is it, soldier? We received word from headquarters. However, when we attempted to contact the capital branch of the Bracer Guild, the phones returned a disconnection signal. We cannot raise them by any means. What? Orders, sir. I think it's best I call in a little extra insurance. Belk, you're in charge. I'll be in a transmitter room for a moment. Yes, sir. May I ask who you're contacting? Certain someone at Leyston. So where the heck could this tea party be? The obvious answer would be Gransel Castle. But I don't know. It's got a lot of guards and it's well fortified. I think they're gonna start somewhere else this time, so let's look around. Problem is though, this town is a huge crowded place. We can't just go groping around in the dark. It'd be like to stumble on a single black helmet. Ah, we have a screen. Seek. What the heck? Yeah, here we go. Scree. I don't really understand, but I want to show us the way to something. Scree. There it goes. See what he tells us next time. We're at the West Block, eh? Let's go. Okay, you guys are kind of amazing. Oh man, okay. I thought we would see the end. I guess not, because a lot. There's the style. This chapter is really good, but it's kind of long. But that's fine. See more in a few more days. I'm probably going to stream Thursday or Friday. We'll see. Probably closer to Thursday. Tomorrow night is co-op night with Alice, as far as I'm aware. So, thank you guys for popping by. Hope you guys are enjoying the story for this game. I know I am. Give yourself a good night, Brissinger. Yes. See you guys tomorrow. We decide to pop in again. As always, take care and farewell.